I'm gonna go live. Yeah, here I am. I'm a minute late. Damn it. Hello, 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 hello. Oh shit, wrong title. Holy moly, mother of Mike. Twice baked is what we want, not wake and bake. Where is it? I don't know. I'm really late. Okay, hold on. What's that? Oh, that's nothing. Okay, frick that. Damn, where's the way? I always lose this. God damn. Okay, wait. Let me make sure this thing has volume so that we can tell when it goes live. Hi, Easily. Hi, Paul J. Did you get lost? Haggard. Did you get lost? I'm sorry, Paul J. We should have come and found you. I'm sorry about that. Let me see if I can just the thing hasn't started yet, so just know that I still have everything. I have it all. But I can't find this fucking title, Wake and Bake. Oh, here it is. Okay, I need you up higher because, frankly, I can't tell what's going on here. Wait, what did I do with it? Oh, shit balls. Na, 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 na. Oh, damn. Where the fuck? What did I do with that? What? Oh, I lost it. Hello, is it me you're looking for? I can see it in your eyes. Where the fuck did this go? Oh, there it is. Ugh. It was a lot harder than it had to be. Not alone, though. Lolo be baking 3 times today. Yeah. And if you didn't see it, we have a new, hold on, let me get this. Hold on, let me show you what I got for you. If you didn't see it, well, actually, let me pull it up first. I changed the thumbnail for tonight. And wait, where am I? Here I am. Do 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 do. Oh, thrice baked. So let me show you this. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I'm a little high. Could you tell? Could you tell? So I changed the thumbnail just for y'all. Boycott. Okay, first of all, I hope everybody got this very subtle dig that I altered the thumbnail of his speech to the residential address. Then we have the things I've stolen. George Washington flipping people off. We've got Curtis Yarvin's forehead. We have the maggots. We have Putin. We have Kimberly Guilfoyle and Gavin Newsom. You can't really see him, unfortunately. And then we've got little Mikey's little Johnson. And then we stole the Daily Cause beautiful drawing of the Emperor Has No Clothes. And then we put a big old boycott across it. I'm pretty proud of this one. All right. So I want to thank you guys for being the moral compass. Hi, Jane. She commented on it. So nice. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Has this started yet? No. What's going on? Why aren't you guys starting? What's the problem? And you guys too. Why didn't you start? I'm not sure I want you to. I just thought for some reason it was 11:30. Okay. Teresa. Hi. Lee. Hi, darling. And Haggard. Oh, nice of you guys to come. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. This is what we're going to be watching. But actually, maybe we could. No, actually, the Democrat thing is like 22 minutes. I know we won't be able to finish it, and I don't want to jump too much between stuff. But what we're going to do is listen to this thing, and then tonight I'm going to pick something that I hope everyone will enjoy. I've got some limitations given, just the way the internet works, but I will find something that will hopefully be scintillating and also copyright free, so I don't infringe on anyone's copyright. I'm copywritten, so don't copyright me. Oops. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I want to move the emperor. Because he's stepping on my weed. You're stepping on my audience number, and I don't like it. Maybe I should put you behind the weed. I'm going to put him behind the weed. Hold on. Emperor. Where's the weed? This is all the important stuff that really needs to happen. Fuck the actual, show. What is that? Who is calling me? Da, 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 da. That's my ringtone. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. I don't know who's calling me. Who's calling me? Anyway, any hoozles. Yeah, so tonight we're gonna be together in protest. You're certainly welcome to come with us. And I don't know what we're gonna do, but I'm personally, I don't know how I'm gonna guarantee that you're gonna have a good evening. I'm gonna try and guarantee it. I don't know, trying to guarantee something doesn't sound very convincing, but trust me. No, don't trust me. I'm just kidding. Oh my gosh, I had a little snack between shows. I really love just a little tiny break is really perfect because then I can just get a little snack, get a little food in my system, and then come back to something that I love. Actually, this is I imagine life is going to be like this actually for a minute, where we're going to have multiple opportunities to come together. Bake away. Oh, I'm gonna bake. I've been baking. I've been baking like a motherfucker during the break. Did a little bit of trolling. It's always fun. I don't know. I've got this sometimes I'm just like a little fucker. And I'm not actually very proud of it. Because frankly, if someone came into my chat and started dropping, well, they wouldn't because they don't have any facts. But let's just say there's a world where they might have something factual to say. Well, I don't think I would delete it if it were factual. So I don't know. I'm still thinking I'm offering a service. I'm offering a service. So, yeah, but it never works. It never works. Let's play a little bit of this while we're waiting for these assholes to start. This was from this morning.
While steering more taxpayer dollars to themselves and their billionaire friends. They're dismantling the VA healthcare and laying off thousands of veterans as Trump stands with Putin and risks our national security. Tonight, we expect the president to put on a master class in dishonesty. We expect the president will focus not on everyday Americans, but on his friends and his ego. No matter what he says, he cannot change the damage he's done already, and the fact that his agenda is going to raise prices for everyday Americans. Vice Chair Ted Lieu.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar.
I love Ted.
I'll be here with Representatives Greg Casar and Brad Schneider. I want to tell you about a meeting I had today with Vote Vets. They brought in a number of veterans who were fired. And I want to tell you a story about one of them. Her name is Eileen. She is an Air Force veteran. She then went to work for FEMA. She's in a rural part of Alabama. She was one of the first to volunteer with FEMA to deploy to Hurricane Helene. On President's Day, she got an email firing her with no notice, and she couldn't even go back to her office. They sent her UPS boxes saying, you put your government cell phone and laptop in this box and you ship it back to us. A few days later, she had to go out to a field where her supervisor from FEMA had to walk out and give her her box from her items at her office. She has 2 kids, 4 and 10. She now has no job. This is not how we should treat veterans, not how we should treat federal employees, not how we should treat any American. And this is what Donald Trump did to her. and he's done that to a large number of federal employees. And if you look at the federal workforce, about 1 in 4 are veterans. This is not how they should be treated, and most of these actions are simply brazenly illegal. We have a number of court cases being filed. We're winning a number of those cases. Others are going to go into litigation, and I call on the administration to stop illegally firing our veterans and other federal employees. I also now want to touch on the subject of tariffs. You've seen with the indiscriminate tariffs that the president has both imposed and threatened to impose, that not only is the stock market tanking, but also inflation is up, consumer sentiment is down, and Atlanta Fed has now predicted that we're going to contract this quarter in terms of GDP. Now, that is shocking.
We read about it. Yeah. Economics Monday. Did you miss it?
And then I'd like to conclude now on Ukraine. I don't know why Donald Trump is scared of Putin. He clearly is. He acts like he's scared of Putin. And right now, with his pause in funding to Ukraine, I just want to let the Ukrainians know to please hang in there. The President of the United States cannot extend that pause because it will be illegal. Congress, on a bipartisan basis, appropriated that funding to Ukraine. Ukraine is going to get that funding. And with that, I'd like to introduce our amazing representative from Austin, Texas, Greg Casar. He has done a fantastic job as leader of the Congressional Progressive Caucus.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Liu and
I love this guy.
Chairman Aguilar. I also want to thank New Dems Chairman Brad Schneider, who I'm proud to call a partner in the fight to protect Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and the American people. Tonight, millions of Americans will tune in to watch the President address a joint session of Congress. I do not know what Trump will say, but I can guarantee you that he is going to lie to the American people and not tell them the truth about what MAGA Republicans in Congress want to do to you right now. So let me say it clearly. Whatever political games that Donald Trump plays tonight, whatever lies he tells and whatever show he puts on, people watching at home should know that Trump and House Republicans want to steal your health care, steal your taxpayer money, and hand it over to their billionaire buddies and to their donors. In Congress, Republicans are advancing a budget that would end Medicaid as we know it. And Elon Musk is trying to cut your Medicare and your Social Security. Social Security that seniors earned throughout their lifetime is what Elon Musk just recently called a quote-unquote Ponzi scheme. I'll say it again. Elon Musk just called Social Security, quote, the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time, end quote. That's right. A guy that makes $8 million per day from federal government contracts thinks that seniors getting $65 a day from Social Security is a quote-unquote Ponzi scheme. Their plan is plain and simple. Guys like Elon Musk get richer, and you get screwed. But here's the good news. Democrats are united and fighting back to protect your Social Security, your Medicare, and your Medicaid. New Democrats, Congressional Progressive Caucus Democrats, the two biggest ideological caucuses here in the Congress, have put out a joint letter that includes 100% of our members from our two coalitions saying we will not vote to cut your Medicare, your Medicaid, and your Social Security. Over 200 House Democrats showed just in a matter of days that we are united with the American people in this fight. So while we may not all agree on every single issue, we are saying with one voice, hands off Medicare, hands off Medicaid, and hands off of Americans' Social Security. So now the question becomes, will any three House Republicans grow a background? Will any three House Republicans do the right thing and act like U.S. representatives instead of like Trump employees and join us? Because if three congressional House Republicans join together with Democrats to do the right thing, there will be no Social Security cuts. We can prevent cuts to Medicaid and Medicare and to Social Security. But if House Republicans choose instead unanimously to come after Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare, then they will own the terrible consequences for working people. thank you so much, and now I'd like to hand this over to my partner, the chairman of the New Democratic Coalition, Brad Schneider.
Thank you, Chair Kassar, Chairman Aguilar, Vice Chair Lou. It's good to be standing here with you in one common voice. Before I read my prepared remarks and talk about our joint letter, I want to touch on what Vice Chair Lou talked about veterans. I have the privilege of representing Naval Station Great Lakes in North Chicago, Illinois. Every single sailor recruit who enlists in the Navy shows up in North Chicago for 10 weeks of basic training. I've had the privilege of attending those graduations. I see those 17, 18, 19-year-old young people, men and women, who say, I want to serve my country. I want to put on the uniform of the United States, go to places I do not know, do things I have no idea if I'll be able to do to protect the American people and the American way of life. Many of those people serve 2 years, 4 years, many serve 20 years or more. All of them committed and dedicated to bettering our country. And many of them, when they finish their service, are not done serving our country. And they go to work with the federal government. They're dedicated federal workers who are serving their nation in their local communities, many here in Washington.
Okay,
And
I'm
the
going
people
to
who
stop
work-
this. I totally endorse what he's saying. This is the digital battlefield, how terrorists use online networks for recruitment and radicalization. So I'm going to take us to this hearing. I'm keeping an eye on the one that is a hearing about going after state and local prosecutors, which seems important, but it has not begun yet. So I'm going to come over here and let's see what we've got. He's the chairman, so he's just begun. All right.
Over 50 indictments against
Oh, wait, what's
individuals
the future of FEMA?
who
Is
have worked
that?
to provide material
Oh, that's already
support or
done.
carry out an attack on behalf of foreign terrorist organizations like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hezbollah. Almost all of these individuals have been radicalized by terrorist media propagations. Americans' ability to access propaganda from foreign terrorist organizations is easier than ever. Groups like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Boko Haram are disseminating their propaganda at lightning speed across the globe on
Wait a minute,
platforms
I
such as
thought we got rid of
Telegram and
ISIS.
Reds. Hamas,
Wait,
Hezbollah,
what?
and other Iranian
What?
proxies have
What
utilized
happened?
TikTok and other platforms to spread
Wait, I thought
propaganda in the
TikTok was
West
fine now.
related to Israel's war with Hamas in hopes of radicalizing individuals to join their quest to launch a global intifada. We saw this hateful propaganda mold the actions of radicalized protesters at Columbia University and other colleges across the United States. Another stark example of online radicalization was seen last year when thousands of Americans went on TikTok and attempted to rationalize Osama bin Laden's letter to America and victim blame our nation for the atrocities that took place on 9/11. Moreover, we have now seen an increase in juvenile, homegrown violent extremists inspired by foreign terrorist organizations, media being shared on youth-oriented platforms. For instance, a 16-year-old in Las Vegas, Nevada was arrested after threatening a lone wolf terrorist attack in support of ISIS and possessing components and instructions to build a bomb. He wrote in a chat room that he would be starting lone wolf operations in Las Vegas against the enemies of Allah. There is no doubt that ISIS actively looks to inspire younger individuals and frequently produces media tailored at juveniles because they think they are more
This seems like a
susceptible
problem that
to
could be
terrorist
solved without a
ideologies
hearing.
and more accessible
I'm
due to
just-
their online presence on a range of platforms. We must acknowledge and confront this urgent threat head on, or we risk having another incident like we did in New Orleans. I hope today's discussion is the first of many
Was
productive
that a young
conversations
person?
on the
Oh, wait a
enduring
minute, I'm
terrorism threats
confused.
our nation faces and how this subcommittee can
Oh, I
find
see. Just
legislative
general online
solutions
recruitment.
to
I
overcome
understand.
these challenges. And I also hope that while we may disagree here in a partisan way on some of the things that have happened in the last couple of years, I hope that we can really focus and limit blame.
Why
that
are
we
your
can
fingers
take
so
the
red?
context and the facts, because I hope that the ranking
Why
member
are
knows
his
that I took
fingertips so
seriously
red
his
and like raw?
inputs
Is that
to
just his
having this
skin?
hearing, to holding this hearing, to
Like
focusing on
blotchy,
this,
blotchy fingers.
not just as a sign of goodwill, but also as a sign that this committee, of all the committees,
The
in
hair is
Congress,
really
that
throwing
this
me off.
committee
I'm
right
sorry.
here was
I don't
formed
mean to be
after
so
the worst
critical.
terrorist
I have
attack
nothing to
in our
criticize.
country, and that the sole
anyone
reason we
with.
have this committee is to ensure that the oversight.
think I need
of
some
those
ukulele,
entrusted
though.
with national security, of Homeland Security, do it
Subcommittee will come to
correctly.
order. Without
With
objection,
that,
the chair is authorized
I
to
think our
declare a
distinguished
recess at
panel-
any time.
Okay,
Welcome
okay,
everyone
hold
to
on.
today's hearing on
Holy
legislative
shit.
reforms to end lawfare. I will now
Nope.
recognize myself for an
Nope.
opening statement. Welcome.
You're over
We're here
here.
today to discuss potential legislative reforms to end lawfare by state and local prosecutors. Rather than debate political opponents on substance, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle thought they could win the 2024 election through the use of partisan lawfare tactics. Lawfare has been defined as, quote, the strategic use of legal proceedings
out of tune.
to intimidate or hinder an opponent, end quote. Lawfare violates the fundamental mission of prosecutors. Prosecutors' job is to do justice.
I don't think I saw any
As a former
votes on the floor
assistant United
today.
States
I could
attorney,
be
made it
wrong,
my
but
duty to
they
uphold
didn't
the
do it
law
while I was
with
live.
fairness on those I charged, making sure their civil liberties were kept intact. Additionally, when I was a prosecutor, I methodically ensured the cases that were brought before me would not fall to political pressure or succumb to outside influence, especially to score cheap political points. Every American deserves to have a justice system that is divorced from the political whims of elected office holders, political parties, and personal vendettas. In their political pursuit of President Trump, however, we saw state and local prosecutors abuse professional norms in favor of achieving indictments against their target. Prior to the 2024 election, President Trump was criminally indicted 4 times. Let's take a quick look at the state and local lawsuits brought against President Trump. First up, Fulton County, Georgia District Attorney Fani Willis's 41-count indictment against 19 defendants, which included President Trump, his attorneys, his former White House chief of staff, and a former Justice Department official. The politicized nature of this prosecution is hard to ignore. A mere 4 days before the indictment, DA Willis launched a campaign fundraising website highlighting her investigation.
Oh, whatever it is
into
that didn't
President
pass.
Trump. And though DA Willis's investigation was first reported in February of 2021, it was not until President Trump announced his candidacy that she brought charges. And later, DA Willis requested that the trial begin on March 4th, 2024, the day before Super Tuesday and just 8 days before the Georgia presidential primary. To charge President Trump and his co-defendants, DA Willis used a broad interpretation of Georgia's RICO law, which is intended to be used to prosecute criminal enterprises that infiltrate legitimate businesses and use interstate commerce.
I
For
love
background,
you.
RICO statutes are used
Have
to
a good
prosecute
day. You look
organized crime mob
adorable.
bosses, street gang leaders,
You're so
and other
cute.
crime syndicate heads, not typically elected office holders on absurd charges. Prior to indicting President Trump, she coordinated with special counsel Jack Smith and the partisan January 6th committee. Her lead prosecutor, Nathan Wade, met with the Biden-Harris White House on multiple occasions. Then we have New York Attorney General Letitia James, who has made her disdain for President Trump well known. When she ran for New York Attorney General, she made many personal attacks against President Trump, calling him things like con man, carnival barker, and even an illegitimate president. As soon as she took office, A.G. James began investigating President Trump. In September 2022, she sued the president, alleging that he and his company had committed fraud to inflate the value of his properties.
He was found guilty.
Now let's turn to Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg,
Oh, wait,
who
maybe
indicted
that's the
President
other
Trump
one.
with 34 counts of falsifying business
Oh,
records,
that's-
which was tied to
he
an
did too.
unknown federal crime, which aggravated the charges to felonies. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office had been investigating President Trump
Wow, he
since
sounds like a real
2018.
criminal.
But it wasn't until after President Trump announced he was
Sounds like
running
a
for president
criminal.
in late 2022 that
Sounds
Bragg
like
elected
a
to resurrect
criminal.
the zombie case against President
Sounds
Trump.
like a criminal
And
to
who did he
me.
bring on to help his politicized investigation?
He sounds like a
Bragg hired
criminal.
senior Biden-Harris
Wait,
Justice Department
so I
official
lost it.
Michael Colangelo
Sounds
to
like a
jumpstart his
criminal.
office's investigation of President Trump.
Sounds like a
Reportedly due to
criminal.
Colangelo's, quote, history of
Sounds
taking
like a
on Donald J. Trump
criminal
and his
to
family
me.
business, end quote, while working for the New York Attorney General's office.
Sounds like a
One should be equally
criminal.
concerned if it were a Republican district
Sounds
attorney
like
engaging
a
in misconduct toward
criminal.
a former Democrat president, cabinet
Sounds like a
secretary, or White
criminal
House
to
official.
me.
These prosecutions are precisely what former Attorney General Robert Jackson warned us about. Attorney General Jackson warned about the most dangerous power of the
Sounds
prosecutor.
like a criminal.
That he will pick people that he thinks he should get, rather than pick cases that need to be prosecuted.
Sounds like a...
It is here that law enforcement
not
becomes
doing
personal,
anything.
and the real crime becomes that of being unpopular with a
not
predominant or
working.
governing group, being attached to the wrong political views, or being personally obnoxious to or in the way of the prosecutor himself, end quote. And that is precisely what we have here. This is why Congress must address Democrats' lawfare efforts by popularly elected state and local prosecutors against federal officials. In fact, Many of my Democratic colleagues on this committee are vocal proponents of a fairer criminal justice system, calling an end to perceived needless instances of overzealous prosecution, wrongful arrest, and detention, and limiting incarceration overall. What better way to achieve these goals than engaging in this hearing to uncover possible missteps by state and local justice systems and ushering legislation to rectify these glaring blind spots? Current law does not adequately protect federal officials from rogue state and local attorneys who stack unwarranted
I'm not very
charges
good
against
at
their political
picking.
opponents.
I'm not doing nails anymore, so I can be better, but it's not helping.
Federal court is limited to federal agency officials and legislative and judicial officers.
You know what else I heard about? A banjo-lele. Have you guys heard of that?
Fix this problem. Promptly
I was
ending
thinking of
political
maybe trying to
prosecutions
save
and
up for one of those.
Executive Retaliation Act of 2025 is designed
Sounds
to
like
protect
fun.
our nation's leaders from lawfare tactics. This bill gives both current and former presidents
Let me see if I can
of
do
either
this.
party, vice presidents and federal officials the ability to remove civil and criminal cases against them from a state court to a federal district court.
God, that's hard.
The bill also codifies the immunity recognized by
It's
the U.S.
hard.
Supreme Court
Right.
for official acts carried out by a federal official. This bill should not be misconstrued as a get-out-of-jail-free card. Far from it. It should be an opportunity for individuals to have a shot of non-politicized due process experience. Make no mistake, if a federal official were to commit theft, fraud, assault, or other crime, they should be held accountable regardless of political party or policy views. This introduced bill should be welcomed by both parties, as no individual acting within their duties should be sought after because of whom they work for or their political leanings. I'm looking forward to
Sublime
discussing that
instrumentals, that
particular
sounds
bill,
good.
as well as the need for legislative fixes in this space today. I want to thank all of our witnesses for being here today. We look forward to your testimony and the robust conversation on how we can move
Chip Roy
forward
is a
and fix this
thing that should
problem.
be of the
I now
past.
recognize the ranking member, Ms. Scanlon, for her opening statement.
I won't sing over
Thank you.
Patty Scanlon
I
'cause
would like
she's
to
really
welcome our witnesses
good.
here to the Subcommittee on the Constitution, but it's a little hard to do so when this committee, and apparently the entire House majority, seems to have lost their way and forgotten the basic terms of that Constitution. Instead of acting as a co-equal branch of government, as designed by our founding document, this House majority is content to abdicate Congress's authority to make and fund laws to a would-be dictator and his billionaire tech bro. Speaker Johnson and House Republicans have gone along with White House efforts to gut basic services that Americans rely upon, whether at the VA, Social Security Administration, or the National
They're closing
Institute of
Social
Health.
Security offices,
They've
by the
teed
way.
up huge cuts to
They're
Medicaid,
closing them.
SNAP, and more.
I can tell you
All
personal
so they can
stories
give
about
more
those
tax breaks
offices.
to their billionaire buddies that will explode our national debt. Instead of lowering costs for American families, they've encouraged the president's tariff wars that are already driving up inflation and tanking the stock market. The bills our House Republican colleagues are filing and bringing to the floor are an embarrassment. They're seemingly engaged in a contest of who can debase and subjugate themselves to the president the most, with measures like adding Trump's face to Mount Rushmore, designating his birthday as a national holiday, and printing $250 bills with his portrait on them. Which brings us to the bill that forms the basis for today's hearing. It's another attempt to refashion the rule of law to flatter a narcissist and felon in chief. We know that because it was first introduced last term to benefit one man and one man only, Donald Trump, as he faced 34 felony convictions in New York, a criminal case in Georgia, and hundreds of millions of dollars in civil judgments, all in state courts. This legislation appears to be an unconstitutional power grab by the federal government and a direct infringement on state sovereignty that would upend the framers' carefully calibrated balance of power between what are supposed to be two equal sovereigns. In their shameless quest to help Donald Trump and his cronies evade justice in our state courts, Republicans would have Congress exceed the scope of its authority and grant federal jurisdiction over a host of state court cases. For all their talk about federalism, it begs the question, is there any fundamental principle that House Republicans are not willing to abandon in servitude to this president? The bill before us, the so-called
To the
Promptly
donors.
Ending Political Prosecutions and Executive Retaliation Act, amends 28 U.S. Code Section 1442, the Federal Officer Removal Statute, and other provisions related to the removal of cases from state to federal court. Under Section 1442, a federal officer can remove a state criminal or civil matter to federal court if the case relates to acts taken, quote, under control of the office, end quote. meaning that the federal officer was acting within the scope of his or her official duties. And as a statutory and constitutional matter, the party seeking removal bears the burden of showing that a case falls within the federal court's jurisdiction. Under the Supreme Court's decision in Mesa versus California, removal is not permissible absent a colorable federal defense. The federal officer removal statute is intended to prevent federal officers from being
Was trying to get it lined
improperly
up, but
punished
the
for carrying
audio's
out
off
their
a bit on the
duties.
source.
It's not a license for them to go around doing whatever they want with no
It's off with the
accountability.
visual.
While I'll leave the point-to-point analysis of this bill to our expert witness, Professor Elizabeth Besky, I will highlight that this bill is troubling for a few reasons. First, it would allow any former federal official to remove state cases for acts taken under color of office. More concerningly, the bill would allow a sitting or
What?
former president or vice president to remove cases for or relating to any act while in office, even ones that involve their personal private
What?
conduct unrelated to their official duties.
What?
It seeks to provide immunity for the president, vice president, and political officers under a misguided understanding of the Supremacy Clause.
Excuse
and
me?
effectively flips the normal presumption
find this
against
bill.
removal to a presumption in favor of it. In other words,
What's
this
it
bill
called
goes
again,
a
or what's the
long
number?
way
Oh, shit.
towards enshrining in American statute the idea that we're ruled by a king who's above the law. Overall, this bill is unjustified, unworkable, and misguided, especially for the time we
sorry.
find ourselves in. But rather than admit that the legislation they've proposed is blatantly unconstitutional, our Republican colleagues have tried to characterize it as a response to politicized law enforcement leveled at Mr. Trump and his allies. In fact, the chair just tried to describe the bill under consideration as an effort to ensure that all Americans enjoy a justice system free of politicization. But as so often the case, Republican accusations are frequently confessions. If our Republican colleagues want to talk about politicized law enforcement, let's have at it. Because we don't have to go any further than right here in our nation's capital to find the most egregious examples, and in just the past 6 weeks. Donald Trump's Department of Justice has fired hundreds of career prosecutors and FBI agents for doing their jobs without fear or favor. He's targeted those who helped investigate and prosecute the people who violently attacked the Capitol on January 6th, while also pardoning 1,500 of his MAGA followers who rioted and injured hundreds of law enforcement officers that day. In doing so, he put his presidential seal of approval on political violence, so long as it supports him. His Department of Justice has made corrupt quid pro quo deals, dropping federal corruption charges against Eric Adams in exchange for the mayor's agreement to his political agenda. In just his first 44 days in office, Donald Trump's made his cynical vision of government clear. He's wasted no time using the power of the presidency to silence the people whose job it is to hold him and his billionaire buddies accountable. By firing at least 17 inspectors general, making it harder for the truth about fraud and abuse in our government to be exposed, and effectively ending investigations into fraud and abuse by, you guessed it, Elon Musk and members of the Trump White House. He's moved to take control of independent agencies designed to hold the powerful accountable, like the FEC, CFPB, and SEC, and using the FCC to go after broadcasters that produce content that the president doesn't like. This president has undermined the power of the people and this Congress, something everyone in this room should be outraged by refusing to faithfully execute the laws that this body has passed and the money that we've appropriated, and is attempting to unilaterally dismantle programs and entire agencies that Congress created and only Congress can eliminate. This is all happening every day out in the open. But condemning these blatant abuses of power is not the conversation our Republican colleagues want to have. Since the day he took office, Donald Trump has trampled on the rule of law that forms the very foundation of our democracy, using the power of the presidency to demand vengeance and unquestioned loyalty. He's undertaken politically motivated legal actions against his perceived enemies. If you want to talk about lawfare, that's lawfare right there. Our founders designed a democratic republic built on the rule of law, not the rule of a king. As this administration tests that fundamental principle, it's counting on our Republican colleagues to be too weak and cowardly to stand up to it. Thus far, that's true. But we took an oath to preserve and protect the Constitution. That's our duty as members of Congress, and that's what my Democratic colleagues and I plan to do. I yield back.
I now recognize the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Jordan, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lawfare is real. It's as real as it can be. November 15th, 2022, President Trump announces he's running for office. 3 days later, Attorney General Garland names Jack Smith as special prosecutor. Now, I understand that's federal.
Whoa, the video is way behind.
But it's lawfare nonetheless.
Way
a few months
behind.
after President Trump announced he's running for office, Alvin Bragg brings a case against President Trump.
Don't worry.
A case
Hold
that his
on.
predecessor said wasn't there. A case
There
that
we
the
go. Hold
Fed,
on.
the,
Jim,
the
I got you.
Southern District of New York, everyone said wasn't there. But Alvin Bragg brings it because President Trump is now running for the highest office in the land. And then a few months after that, Bonnie Willis brings her ridiculous case against President Trump and other federal officials, all designed to make it so President Trump wouldn't win the
Hold
election.
still, Jim.
And of course, all that was preceded by the whole Russia
good enough.
collusion baloney. Complete baloney, where the FBI, think about this, the
That's
FBI went to the
baloney.
secret court. They took information from the Clinton campaign that had first been sent to the Perkins Coie law firm, that they then hired Fusion GPS, who then hired a foreigner.
Paul, do you have a
who put together a bunch of lies in a dossier?
well,
they take
a
it to the court,
caseworker and
they
stuff
use
like
that
that?
as a
That's-
reason to go spy
yeah.
on President Trump's campaign.
I'm going to tell you how
Lawfare
fucked up
as
this
real
all
as it
is.
gets,
It's so
and we
fucked
have
up.
a bill introduced by our colleague, Mr. Fry.
Mr. Fry,
that seeks to
okay,
address
good, because
part
I
of
can't
this.
fucking find
It
it.
says if you're a federal official,
Where is that?
some crazy local prosecutor comes after you,
Bitch,
you
tell
can
me
move
the
that
name.
case to federal court.
Current Congress.
Go
Let me do
figure.
that.
That
Prosecutors?
makes so much sense.
No, civil
That's all this bill
employee?
does. So I appreciate the chairman having this hearing. I appreciate our
Oops.
good witnesses who are here to talk about what we've witnessed in this great country where it's supposed to be equal treatment under the law. You're not supposed
I
to
don't
use the
get
law
this.
to target your political opponents. We have a piece of legislation that makes good common sense that we hope to pass tomorrow in the full committee. But today we're going to hear about it. And so with that, again, I appreciate our witnesses and I appreciate
Wait,
the chairman of this
which
important
number
committee
is it? Did
having
anybody
this
grab a
hearing. I
number off
yield
of
back.
that? God damn it.
I thank the chairman for his opening statement. I now recognize the ranking member, Mr. Raskin,
Oh my
for his.
Jesus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to all of our witnesses.
God, the internet is so slow today.
The
Okay,
the
stop. I gotta get
majority
the eyes off. Hold
Republicans
on.
call it lawfare when Donald Trump is held to the rule of law
I almost
and
put
given
eyeballs
every
on
right
Jamie
of due
Raskin.
process. We call it lawfare when the Trump
It's
administration
not my fault. The video is
violates
out
the
of
rule
sync
of
with the
law
audio
and
from the
tramples
source.
due
I'm
process
sorry.
rights
Sorry,
of
sorry,
Americans,
sorry.
including prosecutors and FBI agents. Mr. Chairman, we have no kings here, no queens, no titles of
if I can
nobility,
find a better
no
one.
serfs, no slaves. Our revolution overthrew monarchy and the established church. It made our Constitution supreme over the monarchical and oligarchical political ambitions of any man. The 13th and 14th Amendments abolished slavery and gave equal protection to all, royal status to none. But in our time, Donald Trump's crime spree throughout American society has tested the hard-won principle that we are all equal and that no one is above the law. The Supreme Court that Trump has repeatedly bragged about packing and stacking to destroy Roe versus Wade not only brought the curtain down on the freedom and health security of tens of millions of American women trapped
The other
in
video is the same.
GOP-controlled
It's
anti-choice
off by the
states.
same amount.
It also made the president absolutely immune from prosecution for crimes he commits under the so-called core functions of his office, presumptively immune from prosecution for other so-called official acts, and subject to prosecution only for private, unofficial acts. After more than 2 centuries, this bracing new taxonomy for licensing presidential criminality was announced by the Roberts Court in a 6-3 decision in U.S. versus Trump. It creates presidential exceptionalism, a plainly dangerous doctrine which overturned a unanimous ruling of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. But even that shocking burst of finger painting on the Constitution isn't enough for Trump and his crowd, who seek now complete immunity and impunity from the laws that bind the rest of us. It's not even enough for them to appoint a nationwide crew of embarrassingly servile judges like Aileen Cannon, who may as well be on the bench in Putin's Russia, as she shows little fidelity to the rule of law, but fastidious devotion to the whims of her dear leader. Now they want to pass something called the Pepper Act to let Trump and his accomplices get their political corruption and election fixing cases removed from any state court in the land and put in front of far more submissive and pliant Trump appointees in federal court. Donald Trump tried this move in one of his criminal cases, the one in New York City, where he was found guilty of 34 felony criminal counts of falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments he had paid to a mistress before the 2016 election. There, his judge rejected his request to move everything to federal court, saying Trump had failed to meet both the current statutory and constitutional requirements for doing that. As Judge Hellerstein observed in his ruling, the evidence overwhelmingly suggests that the matter was a purely personal item of the president, a cover-up of an embarrassing event. Hush money paid to an adult film star is not related to a president's official acts. It does not reflect in any way the color of the president's official duties. Removal to federal court is reserved for cases where there is an actual federal defense. Let's say the president was tried in Florida state court for assaulting a citizen, but his defense was that the alleged victim was a soldier, and he was just administering fair punishment as commander-in-chief of the army in a time of actual conflict. In that hypothetical case, it would be removed so the federal judiciary could handle the federal question defense. There was plainly no federal question defense in Trump's hush money record falsification scheme. But now, scrambling to appease Trump, an incorrigible recidivist lawbreaker who is looking for a way to disappear all of his state court civil and criminal prosecutions, our colleagues proposed to amend the law so that a president or vice president, or even a former president or vice president, can remove a state civil or criminal prosecution to federal court whenever that case is brought, quote, for or relating to any act while in office, even if that act is of a completely private and personal nature, or where the state court's consideration of the claim or charge may interfere with, hinder, burden, or delay the execution of the duties of the president or vice president. This broad, gaping language would in practice mean that no state court in America could ever conduct a criminal trial of Donald Trump or any other president again, even if the alleged conduct, say hypothetically sexual abuse or criminal fraud, has no relationship to any of his official presidential acts. After all, any litigation can obviously hinder or burden the execution of official duty. It would also permit Trump and his associates to remove the state court criminal cases now pending in Georgia related to the Trump conspiracy to overthrow the 2020 presidential election. This bill is designed to trash basic jurisprudential principles, including federalism, that have served us well since the 18th century. The conceit behind it is the pathetic claim that Donald Trump is just profoundly misunderstood and a victim of the judicial process and a target of unfair prosecutions, although no court has ever once found that. Yes, that Donald Trump, he's the victim, according to our colleagues, the billionaire businessman who's been involved in, check this out, more than 4,000 lawsuits, some in which he is sued as a defendant by, for example, frustrated students at Trump University, or ex-mistresses, or golf clubs alleging non-payment, or plumbers, painters, electricians, and small business contractors alleging failure to pay on their contracts. But most of the ones I could find were ones in which he is the plaintiff, deploying his army of lawyers to sue thousands of people and businesses, including casino patrons, real estate partners, business tenants, and media entities. Most recently, he sued ABC and then CBS for $20 billion. But to hear our friends tell it, Donald Trump is just an Eagle Scout who respects women, would never cook the books, and keeps his hands to himself. The Donald Trump I know about is a civilly adjudicated sexual abuser in New York, a convicted criminal felon, and the only twice impeached president in American history who was most recently impeached in this House for inciting an insurrection against the Constitution, the Congress, and his own vice president. The Senate voted 57-43 to convict him, meaning that although Trump narrowly beat the constitutional spread, robust bipartisan majorities voted that he had indeed incited insurrection against our government. Now look, if you want to see real lawfare, if that's something really in your scopes, then open your eyes to the U.S. Attorney's Office here in the District of Columbia. the pro-January 6 insurrectionist turned U.S. Attorney for D.C., Ed Martin, has fired more than a dozen career prosecutors focused on violent crime from his office simply for doing their jobs, and doing their jobs well. He fired them because they had worked on the January 6 cases which they were assigned to do, prosecuting Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and other extremists who violently assaulted our police officers, and they were sacked. Just last week, Mr. Martin demoted several other top prosecutors and career supervisors to entry-level positions, again, as retribution for having simply done their jobs in overseeing January 6 prosecutions. That is lawfare. That is a violation of the due process rights as well as the civil service rights of American citizens who did nothing other than obey the law and do their jobs. And this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the administration's attacks on the rule of law. In its first month, from the corrupt quid pro quo in New York City with Mayor Adams, which led to the resignation of multiple Department of Justice lawyers, including the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District, who had been a Justice Scalia clerk and a career-long member of the Federalist Society, and she said she couldn't put up with that, and she decided to quit. Her assistant, another conservative lawyer who had clerked on the Supreme Court for Chief Justice Roberts, and he said you would have to be a fool or a coward to go along with that corrupt bargain between Donald Trump and Mayor Adams. They have halted anti-corruption task forces. They've suspended enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act.
I know, it's like music.
Kleptocracy and anti-corruption initiatives, and on and on. If you want to look at lawfare, let's look at what's going on right in front of our eyes today, Mr. Chairman. That's what we should be doing instead of going after some imaginary lawfare by state and local prosecutors who did nothing other than their jobs.
Should be okay. I don't think I've heard of any issues with current direct deposits on Social Security payments, and I would have heard.
Has said anything about those people doing anything remotely unethical. I yield back to you.
Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. We will now introduce today's witnesses. First, Mr. George Terwilliger. Mr. Terwilliger is an attorney with more than 4 decades of experience in both private practice and government service. Before entering private practice, he served for 15 years in the Department of Justice as a prosecutor, United States Attorney for the District of Vermont, Deputy
There's a lot
Attorney
of
General,
fucked up
and Acting Attorney
legislation
General.
being submitted by the
Private
way.
practice, Mr. Terwilliger has represented a multitude
But
of
I
private
don't think we
companies,
can take
members of the
anymore.
House and the Senate, cabinet officers, and other executive branch officials. Mr. Daniel Epstein. Mr. Epstein is a vice president at the America First Legal Foundation, a nonprofit public interest law firm. He is
Stephen
also an
Miller.
assistant professor of law at St. Thomas University School of Law, where his research includes
It's Stephen
constitutional
Miller.
law, American legal history, federal courts and jurisprudence, and civil procedure.
Yeah, we should
Ms. Elizabeth
definitely be
Price Foley.
prepared. We should
Ms. Foley is
anticipate delays.
of counsel at Baker Hostetler, where she practices constitutional appellate law. She also serves as a professor of law at the Florida International University College of Law, where she teaches constitutional law, separation of powers, and civil procedure. And Professor Elizabeth Besk. Ms. Besk is a professor of law and associate dean for scholarship at the American University Washington College of Law. Her research focuses on civil procedure, constitutional law, federal courts, and legal writing. We thank our witnesses for appearing today, and we'll begin by swearing you in. Would you please rise and raise your right hand?
It's kind of both. But it's not
Do
very
you swear or
funny.
affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God? Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. Thank you, and please be seated. Please know that your written testimony will be entered in the record in its entirety. Accordingly, we ask that you summarize your testimony
That's a lot
in
of white
5
people.
minutes. Remind each of you to turn the microphone on before you begin speaking. Mr. Terwilliger, you may
All
begin.
white.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Ranking Member and members of the committee, for inviting me to appear here today to discuss lawfare by state authorities. I
The
have three
timing is off. It's
suggestions
not my
for your
fault, and there's not a
consideration
clean
to
video.
curb
So
state
sorry.
lawfare targeting federal officials and to restore the federal officer removal statute to be as Congress has intended it over many years. First, amend the removal law to expressly cover
guy sounds like a
former
bitter Betty.
federal officials. Second, support the Supremacy Clause with legislation providing an expanded scope of removal to include federal court jurisdiction where there are questions of federal law in removal cases.
Okay.
Third, codifies
Aileen
supremacy
Cannon,
clause
looking at
immunity
you.
of federal officials. A constitutional
Be careful
line
what
is
you wish
crossed
for.
when state officials use state law to control federal activity. In 1819, Chief Justice Marshall laid down the law in McCulloch versus Maryland, ruling that under the Supremacy Clause, quote, the states have no power to impede, burden, or in any manner control the operations of the general government, end quote. Congress, over decades, in a succession of amendments of the federal officer removal statute, expanded the protection of federal officers from state prosecutions. As recently as 2011, Congress expanded removal to cover conduct merely, quote, related to, unquote, a federal official's functions. But courts have pushed back, ruling contrary to that congressional intent. In a 2023 decision, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals overruled 200 years of practice by taking removal possibility away from all former federal officials and again raising the bar for removal, contrary to Congress's 2011 amendment that lowered it. Two members of that appeal panel urged Congress to amend, recognizing what they called a, quote, nightmare scenario, where allowing, quote, a rogue state's weaponization of the prosecution power could go unchecked and fester, which could, quote, paralyze our Republic Democrat system of government, which depends on
that
having
was
talented
yesterday.
and
That was
enthusiastic
yesterday.
people
That
willing
was
to serve.
that was Sunday, actually.
Congress should amend
We're so past that.
1442A to expressly cover former officials, but it needs to do more than that to curb the burgeoning lawfare by states using legal
So you can't get
actions
me while
to
I'm a
attack the
president
discretionary
or when I'm
exercise
not a
of executive
president.
authority.
So go
Georgia
fuck
DA
yourselves.
Fonnie
That's what the bill
Willis's
should be called.
prosecution of
Go
my
fuck
client,
yourselves.
Mark Meadows is a great example of that lawfare.
Holy shit.
Congress in 1939
But you're
passed a
honorable
statute
to
which
Williger.
authorized
They broke the
presidential
fucking
assistant
law.
positions and established that
Now,
their
I
duties
understand
by
it was
law,
never
quote,
adjudicated,
shall be as
but even then
prescribed
you
by
wouldn't
the
have accepted it, you
president,
big
end quote.
fat blood-filled
Willis
tick.
nonetheless claims that the Fulton County District Attorney
You
can
fucking
decide
corrupt
what
ball licker.
presidential assistants can and cannot do. Her state prosecution charged
Wait,
the
oh
White
man, why
House
is that
Chief
so
of Staff
bangy?
for
That's
setting
so
up and
bangy.
participating with the president in a
Listen,
telephone
you
call
big,
to a Georgia
fat,
official.
bloated ball
The case
licker,
against Mr.
bad
Meadows should have
liver
been
spotted
removed and
hands.
summarily dismissed under the
You
Supremacy
need to
Clause.
stop drinking
But the
Mountain
federal
Dew
courts
and
in
eating
Georgia, in contravention
Doritos.
to congressional intent,
Okay,
misapplied the
stand away
removal
from the
statute,
bean dip.
not
Your
only
skin
ruling
looks
out
like
former
shit.
officials, but raising the bar by adding the absurd
God, you know, I think of all the wonderful people who have passed away, and then these skin bags are hanging around, making everybody's life fucking
He
miserable.
was authorized to commit the very crime the state alleges in his federal role.
Oh my God, aren't
And
you
now a
done
federal
yet?
court in Arizona has
Isn't this
followed
5
the
minutes
11th
over?
Circuit's lead, blocking the path to federal immunity and allowing the Arizona Attorney General to prosecute conduct in the very west wing of the White House,
Yeah.
the beating heart of the executive branch.
Hello, and that's a problem.
Congress
That's the
needs to
part that
act.
should make you mad.
Reaffirming its intent to ensure
That's
that
the
states
president.
moved to federal courts,
My
and
president.
those that are barred
Don't
by the
hold my
Supremacy
president.
Clause are summarily
I don't want
dismissed.
you to hold my
Chief
president.
Justice Marshall
No.
had it right
No.
200 years ago when he drew that bright line
Where's all my
foreclosing
stuff?
state control of federal activities. The draft legislation here presents common sense steps for Congress to address lawfare where state authority oversteps constitutional bounds. It may be that even more needs to be done, but this bill would be a solid start. Thank you, Mr.
That's
Chairman.
right. This bill would be a very
Thank you, Mr.
solid
Terwilliger.
start.
Mr. Epstein, you may begin.
Mr. Epstein, are you related?
Chairman Roy,
Do
Ranking
you have
Member
a copy
Scanlon,
of the
and members of
list?
the Subcommittee on the
Mr.
Constitution and Limited
Epstein,
Government, thank you
I
for
have
inviting me
questions.
to testify on this important matter.
I have questions.
President Trump overcame
This is
the
a
most
difficult
vindictive
beard to
weaponization
wear.
of the justice system against an American never in our
Big
nation's
sigh.
history. Partisan operatives sought to destroy President Trump in 2016
Who are you?
when the Clinton campaign
What's
branded
wrong
him
with
as a
everybody's
Russian
hair
asset
today?
by laundering campaign opposition research to the FBI
What?
to spy on the
Are
Trump
we talking
campaign,
about Christopher Steele?
leading to multiple investigations
What?
by Special Counsel
That
Mueller.
was originally
Mueller
our
investigations
Republican opposition
substantiated
research.
no
What are you talking
criminal
about?
activity by President Trump, nor could it. Its jurisdictional authority was based on a lie manufactured by Christopher Steele. As the American people would witness, the first special counsel investigation was mere child's play. 2 impeachment attempts, 4 criminal indictments, one $400 million civil judgment, 1 mugshot, 3 states attempting to disqualify him from their ballots, 2 Democratic-nominated presidential opponents, and 2 assassination attempts later, Democrats would finally claim their scalp when they obtained a conviction against President Trump in a New York State court, weeks before the American people overwhelmingly re-elected him with a historic landslide mandate. The American people saw through the coordinated hit job on their president that culminated in a conviction by a radically liberal attorney pool in front of a judge who donated to Trump's first 2024 election opponent, President Joe Biden, and his daughter works for a firm that represented both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's presidential campaigns.
What?
Campaigns against President Trump.
What?
The party arguing before her father. Despite these clear questions about acting Justice Juan Merchan's ability to appear impartial, the jury unanimously convicted President Trump of concealing a crime that it did not even need to agree on or share publicly. But while the New York jury, despite obvious legal errors and corrupt motivations, did convict President Trump, the voters overwhelmingly acquitted him on Election Day, making it clear that they understood the fix was in.
He's my
State of New York lacked jurisdiction over the campaign charges against President Trump. The state of New York did not have jurisdiction to hear a case centered on federal election law. District Attorney Alvin Bragg violated a Supreme Court doctrine known as the primary jurisdiction doctrine, which says that a court should stay or dismiss a claim when it implicates issues within the special competence of a federal administrative agency.
Oh,
Here,
look how nervous he is. His wringing his little
The New York case
bony,
against
spiny
President Trump
hands.
alleged a violation of the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971. The FECA violates the vet's exclusive
That, like,
jurisdiction over issues of federal elections in the FEC and the Department of Justice.
Just kidding.
In President Trump's case, the FEC did
Wonder
look
why I'm
at
laughing.
the allegations and then decided they were not worth further investigation. This should have been the end of the matter. Biden's DOJ did not enforce its exclusive jurisdiction, allowing a politically motivated district attorney to bring his own case built on the alleged
I have
violation
no
of FECA.
shame. I have
Second,
nothing
a
to
top
lose.
official in Biden's Justice Department was dispatched to assist the Manhattan District Attorney's Office's prosecution of
I'll do
President Trump.
anything to
In
make you
coordination with
laugh.
President Biden and his campaign's lawfare strategy, New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg resurrected a hush money zombie case under a legal theory that Bragg's predecessor previously sent back into the grave out of concerns that felony charges would not hold up in court. Bragg's commitment to getting Trump gained him the support of senior Biden political operatives. One day after Bragg announced his primary campaign against his predecessor, Bragg received a contribution from Sherrod
Hold on.
Payne,
I got some
who would
guests.
later become
I got
deputy
more
assistant to the
guests for
president
you.
in the Biden White House.
Ow!
Biden's operatives
Hurt my hand.
for Bragg did not stop there. In December
Hurt my hand. Who do I have
2022,
on the show
New York
today?
District Attorney Alvin Bragg
Let's see, who's
reportedly
on the
hired
show
Mike
today?
Matthew Colangelo
Let's see, who's
to
gonna come up?
jumpstart his office's investigation of President Trump. Due to Colangelo's history of taking Trump businesses. At the Biden Department of Justice, Colangelo
I'm gonna
served as
bite your
politically
neck.
appointed
Yeah,
acting
blah, blah,
attorney
blah, blah,
general,
blah. I
the
bit
third
your neck.
highest-ranking official in the Department of
Hi,
Justice.
Sharky. How you doing today? I'm just
Committee's
fine,
thorough
Lolo. How
investigation
you
revealed
doing?
that Bragg's-
I'm doing
this committee's
fine. This
thorough
is
investigation
well,
revealed
actually,
that
I'm
Bragg's
not
hush
doing
money
so good,
prosecution was
Sharky.
coordinated with Biden.
I could really use
Despite
some
the obvious
help.
links between
I don't know
Biden's
if we could
Department of
plan like a
Justice and
swimming
Bragg's
party
District
or
Attorney
something
Office,
like that, but
Attorney
maybe
General
you
Mark
think we could do
Merrill
that?
refused during
Yeah,
a
you
congressional
think
hearing
that'd be a good idea?
commit to
I
turning
think
over
that'd be a
communications
great
to the
idea,
Department of
Lolo.
Justice.
I will be right
Office.
on it.
The
Okay,
Department of
great.
Justice's
Thank
follow-up
you.
response to the
Okay,
committee
see you later.
denied
Bye.
the existence of such
Who else
communications.
do I have today? Let's see.
Our
Who else
work at
came
America
to the
First Legal revealed that, in
show?
fact,
Who else
36
came to the
responses
show? Wait,
records
ow.
existed between the Department
This
of
one
Justice
hurts.
and the New York District
This is a haughty one. Okay. Oh, this one's going to be a problem.
Thank you, Mr.
Anyway,
Epstein.
okay, come on the show.
Mr. Foley, you may begin.
Hi. Oops. Oh, we
Chairman
really
Roy,
do
Ranking
need,
Member
because we're
Scanlon,
backwards.
members of
Okay,
the
hold on.
subcommittee, first of all, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Okay, who are you? Do I need to be nice?
Lawfare is something we should all agree is bad. And the definition of
Okay.
lawfare is using
Anyways,
the legal
who's
system
here?
through criminal or civil suits
Dinosaur.
to go after your
Hi.
political
How are
opponents.
you? hi.
firing people in the
Lolo, how are you doing today? I'm fine. Thank you for asking, Dino. You look really good today. Looks like you got a lot of good sleep. I'm glad, Lolo. It was a great sleep. I cried myself to sleep, but it was a correct sleep. How was your sleep? Well, my sleep was fine. I kind of had a trouble going to sleep, but I finally made it. I put on an audiobook of I don't know, some stupid medieval history sleep thing, and it just put me right to sleep. It was great. Have you ever heard those? Wow, I haven't heard those before, but that sounds really interesting. Maybe it's something you could send the link to. Okay, all right, I'll do that. I will send you the link, Dino, for sure. For sure, I think you'll really enjoy it. I know how you love history. Yes, it's a history book. Hey, Dino, I want you to meet. Today was Bring Your Dictator to Work Day. So I chose to bring a little pooty poot over here. You want to say hello to him? Okay, you want to say just a quick hello? You want to say hello?
With regard to removal, you can also discourage lawfare by paying with that's going to be really important because
thank you, and scene.
If you make removal
Ooh, that was exhausting.
more readily available, you
Lolo
discourage
Theater.
lawfare.
It's Lolo Community Theater. Puppet show.
Into the federal court where you have
it's my Punch and Judy.
Tenured judges.
I should get marionettes. That's what I should do. I should get real puppets. I need to get real puppets.
The political wins than their state counterparts.
Where's puppets?
And these federal judges
I mean, I know those
are.
Sorry, guys. I know you're real.
The legal scope of important federal defenses such as immunity.
I'm just going to talk through this whole thing. I hope you didn't come for this actual fix it in president.
To decide the merits.
He's a little slurry. Slurry.
And that's really important because federal jury pools are often
sorry, I'm in a mood.
Larger, and this is going to help reduce
puppets for toddlers.
The bias that a state or a locality may have against the federal government.
I need some good puppets.
Particularly if that hostility towards the federal government is sort of
I don't want stupid puppets.
Focused in one particular locality, such as
I got
County,
beard
Georgia,
hair in my fucking mouth. That's fucked up.
Now, if we don't have liberal removal standards, if the current removal statutes are not liberally construed as the Supreme Court says
gentlemen,
it should be,
you and your beards.
then we have a problem, as the Supreme Court
My
identified
God.
in Tennessee versus Davis, of having
And you
rogue
ruined my lip
states
gloss. Okay.
that are hostile to actions by the federal
Kel
government.
Damage.
And those rogue
Kel
states then
Damage.
undermine federal authority.
All right, let me see
through
where the good
lawfare
puppets
waged
are.
against
Hold on.
federal
Feelings puppets. No, that's no good.
The lawfare that has occurred in Georgia and New York have revealed at least 3 substantive amendments to the removal statute that I think are important. The first one Georgia's already talked about.
Oh, wait, you know what? I'm going to go somewhere more creative.
The removal statute clearly
You know what I want? I want a
states that it
Gorbachev
applies
puppet.
to former
I know what I want.
federal officials
I know what I
such
want.
as Mark Meadows.
Gorbachev.
It is remarkable that the 11th Circuit, which denied removal
I really liked
of Mr.
Gorbachev. I'm
Meadows'
sorry.
case,
Maybe I was stupid.
did so because he was a former official, but 2 of the 3 judges on the panel, Judge Rosenbaum and Judge
There is not a
Abudu,
puppet.
the first one is an Obama appointee.
Hello?
The second one
What's the
is a
problem?
Biden appointee. 2 of the 3 judges on the panel implored Congress to amend 1442 to include former officials. I think that says everything you need to know, that this is not political, this is for the good of the country. And they even said, they went so far as to say that if you don't do this, it could destroy the entire system of government. They said it is
Wow,
a
there are
risk
no
that, quote,
Gorbachev
keeps
puppets.
them
I
up
just,
at
there's a,
night.
hey, there's an
Those are
opening
not
in the
light
market.
words by Democratic
There's a market
appointees.
opening here,
So at a
people.
minimum, I
I've
think
just
you need to
discovered a
amend
gap.
1442 for that.
A gap in the
other thing I think
fabric.
you need to do
There's no
is,
Gorbachev puppet.
Is make clear that removal
The
is
hell?
allowed for the president and the vice president. George already
How am I supposed to
touched
do
on
this?
that issue, and I'll stop there and look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Foley. Professor Bask, your time may begin.
Thank you. Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Raskin, Chairman Roy, Ranking Member Scanlon,
and members
Wow,
of
I'm
the
shocked.
subcommittee.
Color me
It
shocked.
is a great honor and a privilege to be part of your deliberative
Sorry,
process,
Teresa. Sorry,
and,
Teresa's
I
cat.
thank you for the invitation.
Sorry, people that are sitting
My
in the
name is
coffee
Elizabeth
shop with
Earl
Neil.
Besky, and I'm a professor of law at American University, Washington College of Law, where I teach federal courts, constitutional law, and civil procedure.
Well, they're going to call you unqualified. Get ready, sweetheart.
And after law school, I clerked for Patricia Wald and Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. And then I spent some time working as a litigator.
Carla, it's a great idea. I just need to find
As
a
will be apparent, I come to you
head
today
shape
not
that
as
works,
a
which will be
politician,
easy.
but as a nerdy law professor. My
I
message
cannot fall
today
down
is
that
a
hole right
simple
now,
one.
but I will.
You can add the proposed language to the statute, but it may not have the immediate, broad, and sweeping effect you intend. In fact, in many instances, it may not do very much. Congress, as my colleague just noted, has extensive power to confer jurisdiction on the lower federal courts. Indeed, the framers conferred
there
on
a Boris
Congress
Yeltsin puppet?
the authority to decide whether lower federal courts
I should get a
exist
Putin
in the
puppet.
first
What am I
place.
talking about?
This vast power was limited, however, by Article 3 of the Constitution. The Supreme Court has made clear that Congress may not expand the jurisdiction of the lower federal courts beyond the bounds established by the Constitution. In this area, the Constitution requires that all cases have a federal ingredient. Section 1442, which you're seeking to amend, allows removal by federal officers of civil and criminal actions brought against them in state court for actions they take under color of their office. A unanimous Supreme Court held in Mesa v. California, written by my boss, that the Constitution only permits these kinds of removal where federal officers assert a colorable federal defense. That is the only time there is the requisite federal ingredient. Any other reading, the court made clear, would raise grave constitutional questions. So even though the statute does not include this
Oh, but there
limitation
isn't. There's
on
dolls.
its face, we must read it in line with the colorable federal defense requirement. The Mesa Court confirmed that Section 1442 is a pure jurisdictional statute, nothing more. In other words, it provides a pathway to federal courts for a defendant, but does not establish
Elon Musk voodoo dolls.
entitlement to get there. That has to come from
Teresa,
somewhere else.
oh my God.
This bill clarifies, as Judge Hellerstein of the Southern District of New York had already concluded, that the statute covers the president and vice president. This bill also takes up 11th Circuit Judge Rosenbaum's call in Georgia v. Meadows to expand coverage to include former federal officers. The 11th Circuit had other things to say on the point of Mr. Meadows' effort to remove. Of course, current and former federal officers cannot remove simply because they hold a particular federal office or because the suit charges conduct under color of that office. Supreme Court's unanimous opinion in Mesa considered and specifically rejected that argument. Perhaps anticipating Mesa's clear instruction, the bill proposes to create a new immunity provision, 1456. This provision confers upon all officers a rebuttable immunity under Article 6, Section 2 of the Constitution from any charges or claims made under authority of state law. Article 6, Section 2 is the Supremacy Clause. The Supremacy Clause does three things. It declares that federal law is the law of the land, even in the states. It establishes federal law is supreme, and it states that if ever there is a conflict between state law and federal law wins. It's basically a choice of law provision. In 2015, in another unanimous Supreme Court decision written by Justice Scalia, the Supreme Court made clear that the Supremacy Clause does nothing else. Stating it plainly, Justice Scalia wrote, "The Supremacy Clause is not the source of any federal rights." In other words, it lacks independent content. So a unanimous Supreme Court has clearly told us we cannot look to the Supremacy Clause to find federal rights. It just tells us what to do when we've found them. Plainly then, Section 1456 and the Supremacy Clause themselves cannot provide content for a brand new, very expansive defense. Section 1456 by itself does not solve a Mesa problem. The proposed new official immunity provision certainly does not enact what some have called the Supremacy Clause immunity defense. That term, coined by lower federal courts, has no relation to the Supremacy Clause itself. It confers immunity where officers can demonstrate their actions were necessary to fulfill federal duties. Nor does it enact quietly any immunity recognized in Trump v. United States. Thank you for your time.
God, so smart.
Thank you, Professor Besky.
Thank you, sir.
My apologies. We will now proceed under the 5-minute rule with questions. Chair
Sorry about the
recognizes
timing
the
again.
gentleman from California for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the simple, awful truth of the Biden administration. For the first time in American history,
Wait, Biden is still president?
targeted its
Wait
chief
a minute.
rival for criminal prosecution.
Really?
Concocted the most flimsy criminal charges, turned the federal law enforcement machinery against it, colluded with the Democratic state law enforcement officials to do the same. This is the historical record. This happened. And when we speak of threats to democracy, what greater threat can there be than one party trying to jail its political opposition? You know, I would frankly advise the ranking member to be very careful in citing the conviction of the president in the kangaroo court of Judge Merchan. A staggering range of legal experts.
Excuse
from
me?
Alan Dershowitz on one side to Jonathan
Oh,
Turley on the
please,
other,
give me a fucking
commented
break.
at great length on just how outrageous these proceedings were and how likely they are to be.
You better
overturned
watch out,
upon competent
McClintock,
review.
you fucking
If they
threatening
turn out- if
asshole.
these professors turn out to be correct, the ranking member and
They're
his many
not.
acolytes here in this Congress are going to have their
Jury
words
of your
quoted back
peers,
to them
bitch.
for the rest of their lives. You know, those who've tried to put their political opponents in jail have never fared well before history, and nor have their apologists. Omar Khayyam put it this way. He said, "The moving finger writes, and having writ moves on. Nor all thy piety nor wit can call it back to cancel half a line, nor all thy tears wash out a word of it." So my Democratic colleagues might want to take a step back and consider how history will judge them in the years ahead when passions have cooled and the facts remain. Now, Mr. Terwilliger,
Wait, where is it?
in the events leading up to the
Nothing ever disappears.
Sorry, we're gonna do this.
Never disappears.
Nothing disappears.
Nothing ever disappears. Nothing ever disappears. Nothing ever disappears.
And Atlanta attempted to do.
Sorry.
Not
Had
that
to-
I'm
had to
aware
do it.
of, Mr. McClintock.
And the internet is never gonna
in fact,
forget.
You know,
McClintock!
privately and to others perhaps in the
Oh, I haven't
president's
smoked any
circle,
weed. What's going on? What happened?
I described
What happened?
command that
What's the drama, Llama?
Mr. Trump be in Judge Merchan's courtroom when he was already a declared candidate ready to campaign, that he was truly
Because he knew it was
America's first
coming, you
political
stupid
prisoner.
shit for brains. You
That
simp.
case needs to be
Fucking
able
ball
to be
licker.
removed from federal court, to
Fuck
federal
off.
court rather. I mean, suppose
Why?
some state authority had decided that Joe Biden
But
was
they
not
didn't,
of
did
sound
they?
mind and was a danger to himself.
But they
or
didn't,
others,
did they?
including the country,
But they didn't,
and
did they?
decided to,
But they
to
didn't, did
civilly
they?
commit him under state law.
But they didn't,
Do we
did
think
they?
That case ought to have stayed in.
But
in
they
state
didn't,
court? Of
did
course
they?
not. This is a very important step, and if I may,
But
just
did you
take the
die?
opportunity, 'cause I think
Did
this
you
is so
die?
important. Professor Best
Did you
is
die,
exactly right
Terwilliger?
about the Mesa decision, which her Justice O'Connor, wrote, and it's
Fucking
why
assholes.
I think that when the committee marks this
Sycophant
bill
assholes.
up, you ought to just simply
Sycophantsholes.
incorporate federal
Sycophassholes.
question jurisdiction into the basis for removal, because all of these removal cases involve federal questions, such as what is the scope of the duties
I really
of the
want
federal officer. We don't want those
I really want
decided in
gumbo.
state courts.
That sounds really good.
Professor Fuller, you mentioned
I don't
how
know where to get
dangerous
good
this
gumbo
precedent
here,
is
so
to both
I'm sure there is a
political
place, but
parties.
of course
What's to
nothing
stop
like
a
New
partisan
Orleans.
Republican prosecutor from going after the next Democratic presidential nominee?
Oh my
You know,
God,
the
shut up.
Democrats
We
keep
don't break the
telling
law
us that
like you
any day now,
motherfuckers.
President Trump will try to do the same thing to them.
Bitch.
Even though he had 4
He
years
is
to
trying.
do
Have
that
you
in his
read
first
his
term,
tweets?
Didn't and hasn't, of course.
You
in
stupid
the
shit.
second
He's
so
going
far.
after everybody
But
and
if we
scaring the
simply
fuck out of
follow
them.
the precedent that the
That's
Democrats
a
have already
misuse of
set,
power.
he certainly could do
Impeachment. That's what I
that.
want.
What other measures do we need to take?
Actually, there's a few things I
to
want,
prevent
but
this from
impeachment
ever
is the
happening
nicest
again?
one.
Mr. Terwilliger said that President Trump was the first political prisoner. We'd better make
Please
damn
give me
sure
a
he's the
fucking
last. So
break.
what can you guide us on?
Couldn't agree more. I mean, this is
Couldn't agree
this is
more. I
bad
just
for the
love that
country.
man.
Yes, based on this precedent, any Republican state attorney general or now President Trump could appoint a special counsel and go after, Biden and anybody in Biden's administration. So
nuh-uh,
the
he's
precedent
presidential
has been
immunity,
set, and
cunt.
it's a bad precedent. What's stopping that from happening? Honestly, we were
What
talking
is?
about in the conference room beforehand. It's because Republicans actually believe in the rule of law. We actually believe in norms,
guess what?
and preserving them.
Guess
By the
what?
way, liberals used to
There we
believe that too. I
go.
think liberals still
Here,
do, but
lick
the
'em.
left
Lick
does
'em.
not.
They did. I mean, when
No,
I
lick
worked on
'em.
the Hill from
Lick 'em. Lick 'em,
1987
bitch.
to 1992, I worked for
Lick
a Democratic
them.
member of Congress who is now a U.S. Senator, Senator Ron Wyden. And back then, when Ron Wyden was in the House, he was actually kind of moderate and reasonable and liberal, but not progressive.
Fuck you.
And he had classical liberal values that he
Fuck you,
adhered
cunt.
to. I think that's been completely lost by the Democratic Party. It's why I am
Harold
no
and
longer
Bells.
a Democrat, why
yummy.
so many others are no longer Democrats, including, for example, Elon Musk. I know that name.
Ms. Foley,
Sorry,
People
Neil.
go crazy.
we've gone over the time.
She's got a
With
balls
that,
to the
I will,
face.
Yeah.
thank the gentleman from
Sorry,
California.
I'm sorry.
Now
You act like an
recognize the
idiot, I'm
gentleman
gonna
from
treat you
Maryland,
like an idiot.
and
Period.
ranking member, Mr.
Get
Bradshaw.
over it.
Thank you, Mr.
Don't act
Chairman.
like an idiot.
First point, the Republicans demanded a special counsel in the Biden case. The Republicans demanded a special counsel to look into Trump because they said that the Attorney General couldn't be trusted. So the special counsel was a demand on the Republican side. In any event, just to get back to the heart of this matter in terms of the law, Professor Besky, you point out that the Supreme Court rendered this unanimous decision in Mesa versus California, establishing that there needs to be a federal question defense in order to remove from state court to federal court. And the burden of your testimony is to say that even if this bill were passed that our colleagues are proposing, it wouldn't alter that in any way because you can't overturn a constitutional ruling with a mere statute. So would there in fact be this intended effect of being of allowing Donald Trump and all of his associates to be removed from state court prosecutions, even if there's no independent federal question defense?
Sorry, no, and I think it's really important to flag that Mesa considered and specifically rejected the United States argument in that case that federal officers can remove simply because they hold a federal office or simply because the suit charges conduct under color of that office. That was specifically the United States argument, and Justice O'Connor specifically rejected.
I mean, that would be like creating a title of nobility. If you hold a federal office, whether it's elective or appointive, you can never be charged under state law for murder, rape, armed robbery, theft, fraud, whatever it might be. It's just amazing to me that our colleagues would make such an argument that's so breathtakingly anti-federalism that the states are just drained of all sovereignty over the common law crimes that would take place within their state. So if you're right, and I believe that Mr. Terwilliger just conceded that you were, I wonder what you think about his suggestion as a way to repair their bill to simply say that there must be federal question jurisdiction, but that just is tautological. That just restates what the Supreme Court's already found, right?
Well, I think what he's saying is it's enough that the statute says he's operating under color of his office, and that should satisfy Mesa.
But that runs into the supremacy clause fallacy that you pointed out originally.
That's the argument that Mesa rejected. Mesa said that's not enough. That does not satisfy the requisite federal ingredient necessary under Article 3, necessary to satisfy the Constitution. So that argument is a non-starter. They have rejected that unanimously.
So what this really adds up to is some people complaining about the fact that Georgia law enforcement authorities and New York law enforcement authorities operating independently as states within the sovereignty they've got without any actual evidence that Joe Biden or Joe Biden's Department of Justice had anything to do with it, decided to prosecute people for crimes committed under their laws. And they don't like the fact that they weren't able to remove to federal court where they felt that they had a more receptive audience because Donald Trump had appointed a lot of the judges, right? So what is there actually to do? The Supreme Court has rendered its decision in the matter, right?
It has, and one thing I always teach my civil procedure students is when someone attempts to remove, it's as if you pull a lever. It automatically goes to the federal court, and it's the federal court that makes the call as to whether removal is or is not a good thing. And so Helverson is a federal judge. It is Helverson that made the call as to whether the requisites of the federal removal statute were satisfied.
In the Mark Meadows case, you're saying?
No,
Or in the Mesa
Helverson
case?
is in the Southern District of New York. Helverstein, I'm sorry. He is the person that made the call as to whether it was under color of the office and whether there was a colorable.
So you're saying it was a federal court ruling
That
on the
it wasn't-
question of
Correct.
removability?
Correct.
So that would be the same also in Meadows' case and in
Correct.
the Mesa case. All of them go to federal court, and what you have is federal judges saying with the Supreme Court backing them up, this doesn't belong in federal court.
Correct.
This is a run-of-the-mill state criminal law prosecution.
Correct. It's not under color of office, and there's no colorable federal defense.
And our colleagues want to turn a federal case turn it into a federal case because Donald Trump doesn't like it. And with that, I'll yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Now I recognize the gentlelady from Wyoming, 5 minutes.
Thank you. Ms.
Nothing
Foley,
gentle
can you
about her.
describe for us what lawfare is?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Lawfare is the use of legal processes, either civil or criminal, to go after a political opponent.
And Mr. Epstein, Alvin Bragg's 34-count indictment against President Trump was the first time a former president had been indicted in history. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But the facts of that case had been known for years. Isn't that also true?
Yes, and litigated.
And why did federal prosecutors then choose not to charge President Trump?
Obviously, they didn't think that the evidence substantiated any crimes.
Do we yet know what the underlying crime was that Donald Trump allegedly committed that was the basis for the convictions?
Well, obviously, the underlying
Me,
criminal
me.
statute was interpreted broadly, but the supposition is that the president, through this alleged hush money scheme, was engaging in election crimes, and even, of course, the case directly referred to federal election crimes.
But what do you mean supposition? Didn't they have to prove that that's what he had done?
And of course, there was no unanimous jury determination on that. And in fact, there was, of course,
There was no unanimous. It was, no, that was explained, you stupid. You're parroting disinformation, you stupid fuck.
So they didn't prove the underlying crime.
Yeah,
they
they
just
did.
convicted him of something in state law. Is that
Oh
correct?
my God.
and I would
Yeah, it's a
also note
crime.
That the,
Oh my God. This is
based
such a
off an
fucking
executive action in
clown
New
show.
York, there was a stay of
That
these types
cunt.
of,
Look at that stupid,
indictments during COVID.
over-contoured
There was,
cunt.
of course, a very aggressive reinterpretation
You know I'm mad if I
of a
insult their
state
looks.
designed to protect criminal defendants in order to go after the president.
Have you ever seen
All right, I'm sharing
anything like
something.
that
Howard
New York
Lutnick
case
is an
in your
asshole,
entire
number
years
one.
of Practice?
No.
Number
Were
two,
you shocked at what happened in that court?
I was, as were many
Why is
in
that
the legal
not-
academy and many practitioners.
what is
You know, I sit here and I listen to all of the
What's playing?
caterwauling on the other side about Elon Musk. I don't know what he has to do with anything today. I listen to all of the accusations about Russia. Boy, I wish we could retire that word someday. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. I listen to all of these, you know, this nonsense
sure
that is
what's
being spewed out there. And what I can't understand is why anyone wants to undermine our criminal or civil justice system in the manner that has been done over the last couple of years with lawfare, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Can you understand that, Ms. Foley?
No, absolutely not. Like I said, if they can do it, if one side can do it, the other side can do it.
I'm not sure where
Isn't
that's
that kind of
playing
what
from,
happens
and
in our
that's
political
kind of scaring
system?
me.
Yeah, because it's politics.
It's politics,
Right,
that's
but
right.
politics and law should be different.
Don't you think that most of the American people understand what happened in these cases? Do you really think, does anybody really think that anybody was confused or that we couldn't figure this out or we didn't even know exactly what was happening with these cases in New York and the Fonnie Willis cases?
Oh,
We all
yeah.
knew what was happening, right? It was to stop him from running for president. Pretty simple to figure out, isn't it? Isn't
Here we go.
cases in New York and the Fonnie Willis cases?
Oh my God,
We
it
all knew what was happening, right? It was to stop him from running for president. Pretty simple to figure out.
I love it.
Isn't
I love
isn't
being
that
the
a
high
classic
girl.
example of
I'm going
law?
to tell you that right now. I love
Is
myself.
that what we want our justice
I
system
love
to turn into? Again,
myself.
whether you're a
I
Republican or
want
Democrat,
you
is
to
that what our
love
Constitution is here
me.
for? Mr. Terwilliger, do you think that that's a good use of our criminal justice system?
Sorry.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Wow.
Wow.
We have focused a lot on how
Wow.
politically motivated the state
That's
and local officials
amazing.
can target.
Thank you for coming
have
today,
been when they
everybody.
target our federal officials, but we also need to consider the Biden DOJ's role
Yeah.
in all of this that happened.
Get
For
'em.
example,
Get 'em, Harry.
Mr. Epstein, what agency has Congress
I wanted
charged
to
with
name my daughter
adjudicating and
Harriet
enforcing
because I wanted to
federal
call her Harry. I
campaign
thought it'd be cute.
finance violations?
That was before I knew about this
That's the
Harriet.
Federal Election Commission.
All right, and from a congressional
Well, they're gone now.
perspective, why shouldn't every member of this committee, why should every member of this committee care about the proper enforcement and interpretation of a law Congress drafted? Isn't that our role?
Absolutely, they should.
In Mr. Bragg's prosecution, did the Biden DOJ enforce its exclusive jurisdiction?
No. In fact, we know that public integrity section at the Department of Justice has historically prosecuted election crimes. And yet here, they ceded authority to a state prosecutor.
So they allowed a state court to take
When I
jurisdiction
think about them, I torch my stuff. Oh, I
no
know.
jurisdiction. Is that fair?
Too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's,
she is fitting for the hairy
you know,
balls.
Miss,
Yes. Oh God. Yes. Of
Congresswoman,
course.
it's
Asking
even
ye shall
worse
receive.
because
Oh
we have a
my God,
tradition
Teresa.
of federal
Please, T.
agencies,
Please, my
even if
sister
you wanna
T.
say
Yes.
that federal
Yes,
agencies
indeed.
have
She gets the ball
expertise
treatment.
in these questions.
First he
We
gets the
certainly
ball
know
treatment,
that
then I'm
state
going to put
courts
my
don't
balls
have
in her face.
expertise in kind of federal questions relating to elections.
If the Dow drops 1,000 points in 2 days, the president should be
Exactly,
impeached
and that's the
immediately.
meaning
Donald
of
J.
jurisdiction.
Dump.
And then when you bring in Mr. Colangelo and his involvement with this, we know that
Oh
the
yeah,
Biden
we don't actually. Oh
administration
my God, your
is
head's too big for the
knee-deep in
balls.
the prosecution of Mr. Trump in New York, don't we?
You need bigger
And in
balls.
fact, as America First Legal
He,
found out,
funnily
and
enough,
of course
needs
these
smaller
documents
balls, but-
were withheld under privilege protections, but 36
I love
records existed
myself,
of
I want
communications
you to
between
love
the District
me.
Attorney of New York,
I
that
smoke
office,
my
and the Attorney
stuff.
General's office. Yet Attorney General Garland came to this committee
It's
and
the
said
only
that
one
there were
who
no
adores me.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein.
Thank you, and I
We have
yield
a
back.
minimum
Thank you, gentleman
teabagging
from
for the
Wyoming. I now
show. This is the
recognize
minimum size.
gentleman from
Oh, I gotta
Tennessee,
get rid
Mr.
of
Cohen.
this. Hold on, don't,
Mr.
because now
Roy.
I've got balls in people's faces.
The
No,
testimony
I don't want
earlier,
to put
the
balls
first
in Jerry
part I
Cohen's
saw was
face.
Jim Jordan incorrectly saying a lot of things.
Yeah, well,
about
welcome to
President
Tuesday.
Trump. Started with saying that this
Sorry.
Mueller investigation didn't show anything.
A boner
concerning
investigation?
Trump. There was no connection. That's because Bill Barr redacted it and made his own opinion on the front end of
Exactly.
what the case said, what Mueller said. And Mueller's report made it clear that there was Russian involvement. And the first thing that the Russians did was to send some folks up to Trump Tower to talk to Junior and son-in-law and a few other Trumpers and talk about getting something done. And that woman that came up there to meet with him ended up being in the Russian Duma. So the Russians must have thought pretty well of her. She did her job well. The Senate did a study, bipartisan study, on whether there was Russian collusion, and the Senate Intelligence Committee came out and said, yes, there was. That Manafort went over to France or wherever and met with Klimnikov and gave him the polling data, and this is where we need help, and then that ended up getting to Prigozhin in St. Petersburg, and then they started spewing out all the false social media stuff to make blacks think they shouldn't vote, and other people get confused about this and that, and trying to help Trump, and that's what they did. The Russians helped Trump get elected in 2016, and the Senate Intelligence Committee said that, and the Mueller Committee said, the Mueller report said that. And then as far as this trial goes, that you say there's not been a president indicted before, there's never been a president that was so easy to indict.
Exactly.
The guy committed more crimes than all the other presidents put together.
I don't want more gruff when I think you I
Michael
torch my
Cohen got
stuff.
tried and sent to prison because of what he did in this case.
So you can't look what's in this legislation,
Bill Barr
really?
didn't want to try
I've been trying to find it.
the
I haven't
president.
found it, I don't think. I haven't found it.
One, basically saying
I don't know what the number is.
the president did it, but we're sending Michael Cohen to jail and to protecting individual one.
I think we still should. What the fuck was that interview with Anna Delvey? Who the fuck
He should have been
cares?
tried in federal court, but Bill Barr wasn't man enough to do it because he was bought.
Midas touch. I want to love you so bad, but you got to get rid of Michael Cohen. He is useless
President
as tits on a bowl.
Paid off Stormy
Get rid of that
Daniels,
motherfucking traitor.
whatever she was, Miss August, whatever, and paid them off so that it wouldn't become public and hurt his presidential campaign. And Michael Cohen took the orders that he had to do it.
How do you know she
And
was
they
Miss
did that.
August?
So it was federal election involvement, and it was criminal law. And the jury found him guilty. How many counts did they find him, Professor? How many counts?
There might
were
be
that
one
he
from
found
the
guilty?
118th Congress, but I don't know if
34
that's the same bill.
The jury, Americans, citizens, voir by both sides, chosen on 34. They all agreed.
Due process.
34
Sorry,
to
not
nothing.
sorry.
Every single one of them said guilty, beyond a reasonable doubt. And y'all are questioning the American jury system and say because they're in a state court.
Don't be surprised. I wouldn't be
their
surprised if
ruling wasn't
Michael
proper.
Cohen starts cozying up, just like
He committed a
Scaramucci.
murder. Hamilton and Burr had their duel, and in New Jersey, I guess it was, and there should be a criminal case, and there was. They want to. This whole law is about helping Trump.
I can't remember what I said.
Fuck.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if Cohen starts cozying up to the Trump circle, a la Scaramucci, who dances between them.
There's no need for this law. But Trump wants to get it in federal court because he's got friends there, and like Mr. Raskin mentioned, Eileen Cannon, and what she did, which was disgusting all around. She ruined the classified briefs, files case, classified information. And he was guilty as hell of that.
And now it's all being sold and
And she
destroyed.
held it until they can't even get the special counsel's report out.
He literally already brought all that stuff back to Mar-a-Lago this week.
Off and off and off.
Oh, about
It
the
wouldn't be heard.
legislation. Oh,
Supreme
I can't
Court
find the
was also
legislation that they're
involved in this.
discussing
They were
about
wrong
civil servants
to
and
give
being able
Trump
to
a free
remove
pass.
cases to federal court or something
Donald Trump shouldn't make law.
for former officers.
He shouldn't be where he is. That's what happens when you elect somebody who is emotionally, morally.
And but I can't find a copy of the legislation, and I wasn't sure if it was
Give him a pass
the
from Jones and say,
118th Congress and just carried over or whatever. But anyway, I just haven't been able to locate it. Is Mooch lingering around like a bad smell? Yeah, he's always up Twitter ass,
Of the President of the United States, I'll now
flowing like a
recognize the gentleman
fucking
from
feather
North
in the
Carolina, Mr.
wind.
Harris.
Idiot. And he's a crypto bro. He's like one of the worst.
For your time today and for
Jesus.
your testimony.
I wouldn't be
Mr.
surprised if he
Epstein,
was
on
trying to
August
get in
8,
on the snipey
2022,
coins.
The FBI raided Mar-a-Lago. And
My
the
God,
American
they
people
didn't raid it.
witnessed
It's
an
your own
unprecedented
government,
attack
sir.
on the home of a former president.
That's
by
your
a
own government you're
politicized
talking
FBI.
about.
Almost a year
How
after the raid
un-American.
on Mar-a-Lago on June 7th, 2023.
Yeah, and they also took a
Stephen
shit ton of boxes
Durantono,
back down to
former assistant
Mar-a-Florida.
director in charge of the Washington
On-
Field
on-
Office,
on
sat down
air.
with the House Judiciary Committee
Fucking
for a
Alina
transcribed
Habba
interview as a part
was
of this
like its
committee's
babysitter.
oversight of the FBI. In the interview,
This is the
Mr.
crazy town.
Durantono described
This is
what
like
he viewed
Brondo
as several
that
abnormalities
has
about the way in
electrolytes.
which that raid was conducted. Mr. Epstein, in a notice of claim filed in the DOJ in 2024,
You're not
argued that the
related, are
FBI's
you?
conduct in the raid, where established protocol was violated,
No,
constitutes a
okay.
severe
I
and
know what you're doing.
unacceptable
This is
intrusion
secret
that is
police type
highly
stuff he's
offensive
talking
to
about.
a reasonable person. End quote.
Oh my
Would
God.
you explain to us today how the FBI's raid
I don't know
of
if I can take
Mar-a-Lago
much more of this,
was
I'll be honest with you.
inconsistent with standard protocols?
Well, Congressman, precisely as Mr.
Oh,
Antonio,
yeah, let me
testified
tell you
before this
why.
committee,
He looks like
we
that
have
guy in,
protocols. We
whatchamacallit,
let the attorneys
Men in
know,
Black,
before the raid
before he
is
takes
going
his
to be
skin off and
conducted.
reveals
We
the
typically use kind of
alien, you know,
local office
like
to be
he's
in
gonna,
charge of it,
oops, no, he's
not,
gonna start
the
talking,
Washington
you know,
field
like
office
this.
to be in charge of that. And the protocols here were wholly inconsistent, and I think that's part of the concerns about when political goals.
Edgar,
inform
yes,
what
thank you,
otherwise should be
Carla.
doing
Edgar,
justice.
that's who I'm thinking of.
And why do you suppose
I expect
they
him to stand
opted
up and like
out
rip his skin
of
off,
such
and then there's this big like cricket
You know, I
in there.
think here the tone was set from the top.
Sorry, crickets.
I think
Sorry.
and I'll just note that on this question.
Now, this guy's really mad about it, too.
Records and what
Yeah.
was probable cause to do
Oh,
these
Presidential Records Act, and
So
we're going
much
to talk
of
about
that was
Biden. Are we going to talk
based
about
off
Pence?
the views of the National Archives.
Oh, really?
That these were records that were in the proper ownership of the United States.
Yeah.
In large part because of America First Legal's work, we
Oh.
recently showed that the
You
former
didn't.
archivist of the United States,
No, you
David
didn't.
Ferrero, actually said that we should treat President Trump's records as if they were federal records. In violations of the Federal Records Act, allows
Oh, look how
us to make
excited he is.
referrals
His
to the
little
Department of
thumbs are
Justice.
going like that.
That
He's so
was an
excited.
arbitrary,
He's getting all
capricious,
hard and
illegal
I get so mad at
that
these
led
guys.
to the ability
I
for the Department
hate
of Justice
these people.
to have
I
probable
hate
cause
these
to conduct
people.
this raid. And I think that's something that is a direct piece of evidence of politicization.
Oh, I don't know what happened.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein.
Oh, Edgar,
Mr.
but pronounce it
Terwilliger, your
Edgar.
client, Mark Meadows, being
Edgar.
sued by Fulton
Edgar.
County,
Oh, sorry, I don't
originally
know
by the very
anything.
partisan district attorney, Fonnie Willis.
Oh, wait, we're gonna do
Meadows
that.
sought to have his court case moved to a federal
I need a
court,
misogyny
arguing it
and
was more
lies one,
appropriate
don't I?
because
It's
he was
too long,
acting in
though.
the official capacity as Trump's White House chief of staff. After his bid was rejected by the Supreme Court, you
Assholes
argued that the
got
risk puts former
these
federal officials such as Meadows, quote, at risk of being left to the wiles of every
Trying to stroke
politically hostile district attorney or state
egos.
AG in the country. I
Trying
happen to agree
so
with you.
hard.
Something needs to be done to protect future former officials from being subjected to the type of lawfare that Mr. Meadows is facing. So my question to you, Mr. Terwilliger,
Assholes have
does Congress have a responsibility to protect federal officials from
These
lawfare?
lies and all the
Yes, sir, it does. And it has
feelings
tried repeatedly to do
here.
that, and the courts have
Who are the four
repeatedly
guys in the
pushed
back
for
that look like
whatever
they're all
reason,
partners?
including in the
Like they're a
Mesa
match
versus
set.
California decision. What Mr. Raskin's comments miss
Oh?
is the fact that all federal courts, all inferior federal courts, other than the Supreme Court, are created
Invoking the
by this
name,
body,
are we?
by the United States
I'm very
Congress.
high, and
You
I'm about to get
establish
higher.
Their jurisdiction.
Higher.
And what I'm
I
suggesting
can't
to
wait.
you
I'm gonna
very
do
simply
DJ
to
sessions
what
with you
you're-
guys.
what you're- what
I'm
you
planning
wanna
it for
get
this,
done
like maybe
is
this
that you
weekend or something. I don't know.
Standard federal
I'm so excited.
question jurisdiction into the removal statute.
What time should I start?
So in a case like in Mesa, where the question was whether or
I'm gonna
not,
do
if
like
I recall
flashing.
correctly,
Watch out for flashing
postal
danger. Well, it's not that
employees,
fast because my
could
fingers aren't
speed
that
or
great.
not in doing
Okay,
their
I'll
job,
stop.
but those questions get decided by federal judges in federal courts.
This
Otherwise,
douche
we have
has
an incredible
feelings.
body of
He
confusion
never
of state courts
wants to
deciding
let
federal
them
questions.
go.
But it is important because of the
His
Mesa
feelings
decision
so
to make clear that federal questions
real.
belong in federal court, and indeed,
Treason.
over decades, many federal courts have said
This
the very
dude
reason for the
loves his
removal statute is to have federal
treason.
questions decided.
He'll stand up for
Thank you, sir, and I look forward to our
anyone
markup tomorrow, in which this committee
who
will be taking a look at important legislation seeking to
What?
address these issues and prevent future lawfare. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
see?
I think the gentleman from North Carolina
We're gonna get
now
all the
recognizes
lawfare.
the gentlelady
See?
from Washington.
Oh, but not our lawfare.
Mr.
Our
Chairman,
lawfare is
President Trump
completely
has a long and
justified.
documented history of attacking the judiciary simply for following the law. He once suggested that a judge who granted class certification in a
Yes.
fraud case
Yes,
against Trump
Lee.
University could not be
Oh, girl,
impartial
we're gonna have so
because
much
the judge was
fun.
of Mexican descent. He
We're
called
gonna have
other
party
judges,
atmosphere,
quote, crooked,
and we'll have like
corrupt,
a slow
and
music
evil.
day and a
And most
fast
recently,
music
he
day and an
refused to
oldies
comply
day and a
with judicial
newbies day
orders,
and all
blocking
kinds of
the
themes.
implementation of his unlawful
Blues,
funding freeze.
international,
My colleagues
all
on the
kinds
other
of shit.
side have
I can't
unfortunately
wait.
endorsed this behavior, and now they propose legislation that would further empower President Trump to evade accountability in the courts. Professor Besky, what effect does this kind of behavior towards the judiciary have?
It might
on
have
the
to be on
integrity of
Twitch
the
or
court system?
TikTok or
Just
something. I
briefly.
don't know. I might
Well, it
be
takes
knocked
us
off
into
of, but we'll
dangerous
I'm going to play with it
territory.
and figure it out.
I mean, the whole premise of Article 3 judges is they have life tenure. The framers tried to remove them from the political process.
And
The whole
TikTok's apparently
idea
fine now, so nobody
was
should be
to
complaining
have
about
a
it.
body of judges free from political considerations. And the idea
I won't
of disobeying
dance,
a
don't
court
ask
order,
me.
boy, that's a constitutional crisis. I mean,
It is a constitutional
that's
crisis.
terrifying.
Yes, it is terrifying. In May of 2024,
And
Donald Trump was
terrified.
found guilty of 34 felony charges under New York state law for falsifying business records to conceal hush money payments made to Stormy Daniels. Republicans believe that this prosecution was politically motivated.
Yeah,
and
I'm going to
corrupt,
try and keep
but they
it,
seem to forget
and
about
I'll
the
also do
role
to
of a
Discord, Lee.
citizen jury,
I can also do
which
it to
came
Discord
to
at the same
ultimate
time. So there's really no
unanimous
need to
conclusion
do a
of Donald
new.
Trump's guilt
I can
after hearing
broadcast to
both
Discord,
defense and
so
prosecution
no
lay out
worries.
the
I'm not going to
arguments.
make people
Can you
like
just remind us
take
why
something
the
that, or
founding
be on
fathers
something they don't want to
actually
be on.
adopted the
I
jury
don't
system?
blame you.
1 or 2 sentences, if you can.
I'm just thinking to
I know
grow
it's tough for a law
audience, I
professor.
might.
I mean, that was kind of the genius of the framers, right? To put front and center ordinary citizens.
Really, it's
there,
kind of just for fun.
To be safeguards against the government. I mean, to protect and be the decision makers, right? Prosecutors might be motivated to get the conviction, but to have the ultimate decision makers be people, ordinary people who are weighing the evidence and coming to decisions. That was kind of their genius.
It is genius, and there are even some checks and balances built into the system to make sure that jury members are impartial. What are 1 or 2 of those?
Well, I mean, you have challenges for cause. They're unlimited, typically, in every state. And peremptories, though there are some limits on those, but there's voir dire. I mean, that whole... sequestration, typically judges are kept from things, or rather jurors are kept from things that might prejudice them. Judges obviously have the ability to call a mistrial in the event
That's
that there's
great.
anything.
So there's lots of things built in to make sure that this is a fair process, and there was no evidence of improper bias or behavior by any members of the jury, right, in that criminal case.
No?
And once again, to confirm, did the citizen jury, this genius system that you've described, unanimously conclude that Donald Trump was guilty of 34 felony charges?
With respect to each of 34 charges.
Each one. So I want to turn to this legislative proposal, which seeks to amend federal law to allow presidents to remove cases against them from federal court to state court. Under existing law, removal is only granted in limited
Not
cases,
today.
and motions have to be made on specific grounds.
We
that
might
allow
have
for
discussions
removal.
about
And
it
one of
more
those
as it goes
grounds is that a
along,
federal
but we'll keep it
officer,
free and easy
member of
for this
Congress or
point.
judge can remove a case if the case
And I do think she
relates
wants to do something
quote,
perhaps
any
next
act
Monday,
under
but I'm going to
color
keep
of
it open
office.
just in case
And the
because
Supreme
things can
Court,
really
as you've
change
mentioned, has
with
interpreted
people's
color of
schedule.
office
So,
to
but
mean
that
acts
is
in
something,
performance
Max,
of
that
an
I would put on
official
Discord.
duty.
I'm going
The
to try and do
other
those
side's
spaces on
legislation
Discord. I
exceeds this
fucked it up
requirement
last
by
night,
allowing
so
presidents to
apologies.
remove any case to federal court for any act in office, that's a quote from their legislation, regardless of whether it relates to exercising their official powers. Why is it a bad idea to eliminate that, quote, color of office requirement?
Well, I mean, you're certainly expanding the possible pool. Now, again, always qualified by the MESA federal defense, but you're expanding the possible pool of people who can take this bridge to federal court. I mean, I'm a federalism person, and I believe that having 2 sovereigns in our system, states and the federal government, is a protection against tyranny. I mean, the framers really thought
Way to
about
go,
this, and
Max!
that protects individual
Fuck yeah!
rights. And to take from states their ability to prosecute violations of state law in their own courts is very intrusive, and the more that's allowed, I mean, that's a problem in our system.
Protection against tyranny, that's really what we're talking about here, and I really appreciate your input, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I recognize the gentleman from Texas for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, the past few years, the left has used every weapon, including weaponizing the Department of
Here we
Justice against
go.
President Trump. But of
No
course,
worries,
they didn't
love.
stop
No
at the
worries.
DOJ.
We'll plan for
The left
Monday,
used state
and
and
then
local
when
prosecutors
wait
for their
is
biddings as well. Do you remember the so-called
we can
hush
plan
money
for
case
Monday and then
in
just
New
see what
York?
happens
This
from
is
there.
the case that was
No
led by
problem.
Matthew Colangelo, the former number 3 at
Oh
the
my
DOJ.
God,
That's
this-
right. A high-ranking
guy.
DOJ official left his job to work for a local DA's office.
I'm turning you down, sir. Actually, you know what? I can't take it. I can't take these lies. You can, if you want to know what he's saying, there are captions on the bottom. Apologies. But I'm not here anymore for this. I'm not here anymore for this. I don't like that blouse on that woman behind, and why is she smiling so pleased? Why does she look so fucking pleased with herself? Why? This guy is just acting. He only wants the soundbite. I fucking guarantee it. And I'm sick to death of it. I'm sick to death of them. So there. But yeah, while we have the silence, I'll tell you. First of all, tonight I am going to go live at, is that Aileen Cannon? You know what? It kind of looks like her. It kind of looks like her, Neil. Yeah, you have another tariff deadline on 3/12. Oof. We played Justin Trudeau's comments on that this morning in our Wake and Bake. So if you wanted to see that, obviously you can find it anywhere. But of course, we would love for you to kind of check in on Wake and Bake and replay it that way, boost the algo. But here's the thing. Tonight, I am going to go live at 5:55, which is 8:55 Eastern. I don't know, and I'm not sure because, Lee, what I had planned was to show the speech. I decided not to show the speech, but I still wanted to be on YouTube. So I have to do some quick thinking here about what I'm going to do. Anything I do on YouTube can be shown in Discord. So that I'm not worried about. It can be on Discord still. But I'm then limited because of YouTube to what movies I can or content I can show. 7:55 Central, correct. Thank you, Teresa. I know, tariffs and dancing. It's a lot. It's a lot. She's going to need that. She's going to, yeah, I love surprises. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. No, yeah, I'll try and pick something relevant and hopefully, I don't know. Well, I got to do some quick thinking here. But with the fact of the matter is we are going to boycott the speech. We are not going to be listening to the speech. I'm not even confident I want to listen to the Democratic response. I'll ask the group how you guys are feeling, and then we'll go from there. It'll be a group decision. And Neil, I'm struggling to maintain some work-life balance. We'll take dancing when I can. Hell fucking yeah. What is that? I don't want to know what that is. What is? Please don't tell me what that is, Paul J. So yeah, we're gonna listen, but I'm gonna wait till this guy gets to a Democratic question because I can't listen to the Republican type of spin anymore. It's just making me really sad. I don't know if there's anything that's actually happening in the news around that. Let me see. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, watch later at 2 times speed is going to be my new way to watch. Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Oh yeah, Elvis. It's a great idea, actually. Okay, let me see what's happening here. Hold on. What are we doing? I'll rewatch, so no need to say it again. No, we're doing it. Val, don't worry about it. What we're going to do is I'm going live tonight. Right now, we're just ignoring the Republicans. Here we go. We go back to Democrats.
To understand the stakes of what's happening right now at the Department of Justice, and I know many Americans feel in this moment that they can't trust government, and I certainly understand why they might feel that way. Democracies have long struggled with rooting out public corruption, and as long as there is public trust, there are those who will betray the trust for their own power, for their own profit. So how do we combat corruption? How do we ensure the responsible use of power? Those are the things that I think about a lot and that my constituents ask me about. One of the ways that we do that is by entrusting that we have independent, ethical prosecutors to uphold the law, no matter who is in office. And I want to acknowledge and thank everyone for being here today. I especially want to acknowledge Mr. Terwilliger, who previously served the people of Vermont and the nation under the Reagan administration in various roles, including U.S. Attorney. So thank you so much for being here. Mr. Terwilliger, do you agree that one of the most effective ways to fight corruption is to establish and maintain a group of nonpartisan prosecutors who are dedicated to the rule of law?
I certainly agree with that, ma'am, and if you'll allow me just 30 seconds. When I was the U.S. Attorney in Vermont, I had no idea if my assistants were Republicans or Democrats. They were people who believed in the rule of law and applying the rule of law.
Mr. Terwilliger, come right over here to the hole in the ground that you're about to fall in. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Because or on account of.
Oop, sorry, turned you off.
Sadly, have to tell you, man.
If I could, just because I only get 5
No,
minutes.
you're not going disinformation,
I
bitch.
sadly have to tell you that culture at the Department of Justice
Stop it.
changed completely.
How do you know?
10, 15
How
So the
do
whole
you
idea-
know?
so
But you
stay
haven't
with me, you're
worked
saying
there,
the
have
whole
you?
idea
You
behind
haven't
the
worked there,
Department
have
of
you?
Justice, right, is supposed to be
You
enforcing the
fucking
law
dick.
without fear or favor, correct? And that's what the American people want. That's what Vermonters want. I hear that from them all the time. And that's what
This
our
fucking prick.
Constitution actually
Ugh.
demands. So when a U.S. attorney stands before a judge,
You
and
cannot
say
blink.
that
You're
they're
so
there
right,
not
Clay.
to represent the people,
I guess the U.S. and Ukraine to
represent
sign
the
mineral
president.
deals today
understandably, there are alarm
is
bells
a
that
current
start ringing.
headline.
So we're 2 months into this administration.
I love
So far,
Vermont.
we've had a
Thank you,
US
Vermont.
attorney publicly state that his office is composed of President Trump's lawyers, not lawyers for the people, not lawyers supporting the Constitution, but President Trump's lawyers. We've seen political purges of nonpartisan career civil servants because they did their jobs, including those who were involved in the January 6 prosecutions. And we've seen a shocking quid pro quo involving the indicted mayor of New York. So you said so yourself.
I think
it should not be
Zelensky is
about
calling his bluff.
partisanship within the office. And
That's what I
applaud you
think.
for that. So
Now he has to
thank you
come
for
through
being
with
here. I'd
security
like to turn
guarantees.
now to Professor
What's he going to
Besky.
do?
Professor Besky, under the legislation offered by the majority, specifically Section 1456C, the Attorney General could represent a federal official in any case subject to removal under the statute. Is it true that this provision could make the Department of Justice the personal counsel for the president, the vice president, or for federal officials in state criminal or civil cases? Is there a danger there? There is certainly a danger because typically the norm is that there's a separation there. Does that terrify you to contemplate that?
It certainly doesn't help me sleep at night.
Okay, all right, I'll take that as in the affirmative. I do think that it goes strongly against what Americans want, what Vermonters want. They want to make sure, without fear or favor, they want to make sure we're doing this in a way that is not corrupt. But there's, in fact, what I think another important key element here, which is how the public perceives those attorneys charged with enforcing the law. So how important, again, to Professor Besky, how important is the public trust in those who enforce anti-corruption?
He is a lot smarter. I think it's actually smart.
more.
It's setting him up. It's setting Trump up to show his really true colors. If he hasn't shown them strongly enough, it's going to make it real hard for people to endorse what he's doing.
It doesn't hold together, does it?
It's going to make it harder.
If the people don't believe that justice is blind, anti-corruption efforts are doomed to fail, and authoritarians thrive in that environment.
This is Section 1456. I put a link in the chat to the section that she's referring
What my
to.
Republican colleagues have done for many years, and in this committee as well, they've attacked prosecutors, they've attacked judges, they've dragged public servants down here for baseless, in my opinion, baseless depositions, sent letters full of baseless accusations, blasted theories, many of them hateful, all over the internet. And what happens then is that Americans become incredibly skeptical, cynical about there is any such thing as a justice system without fear or favor. And I think that should scare all of us. I understand, Mr. Chair, I'm over time. I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady from Vermont. I'm now going to recognize the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Onder. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all the witnesses for being here today. Last June, the Attorney General from my home state of Missouri appeared before this committee, Andrew Bailey, and testified that Missouri removed a prosecutor who filed politically motivated cases while refusing to
What's that
prosecute
box on the wall behind him? Hi, Peace
What the St.
Love.
Louis prosecutor and Alvin Bragg had in common was that their campaigns were funded through the Vera Institute, which received
Oh, Val, we're doing dance party because I'm going to do some DJ stuff next week. And tonight we're getting together still live at 5:55 Pacific,
but to take political
almost
action
6 p.m.
against political
Pacific,
opponents in the case
on YouTube and Discord. So join wherever
of the state of Missouri.
if you can. Please.
It's no secret, of course.
Thank you so
that
much.
In New York, Alvin Bragg
Hey, night,
was on a
Jane.
vendetta to prosecute President Trump. Mr. Epstein, I wanted to.
Is it? I think that sounds just a little tiny bit like
case in New
feelings.
York. So I just wanted to
That sounds like feelings. I'm sorry, Senator, Representative, Congressman.
Of course, in the New York case, that money was paid
Oh, be careful, Peace Love. I sucks balls.
with Ms. Clifford. Is an NDA illegal?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah. Oh God, are you talking about fucking Stormy Daniels? Wow, you guys are really in your feelings.
Falsified, and as I understand it, that was a misdemeanor with a
Feelings. Nope. Actually, nope. It was big enough that they reopened it. Okay.
But if the business records were falsified in furtherance of another crime,
nothing more than feelings.
wouldn't be expired, and it would be a felony, not
yeah.
a misdemeanor.
Okay.
Is that right?
What? Huh?
Right. Okay.
Yeah, just about 2 hours.
What law was
Just about 2
violated,
hours.
as my understanding is stated
So real.
Congressman Hageman.
Feelings. These jerks have feelings. They'll never want to let them go. Yeah, exactly. I want to know what the box is behind him on the wall. Oh, you can't see it. Sorry. Oof, let me get the feelings out of the way. Let me get my feelings out of the way. God damn it. Go away, feelings. There we go.
Case that looked
Feelings.
at that allegation.
Treason.
Was without merit.
This dick supports treason.
Jurisdiction over that.
He thinks.
I mean, can you
I don't know.
explain
I can't think
how
of it.
the issue
I'm getting
campaign
loopy.
finance was crucial in this
I'm getting loopy.
and was indeed a federal question.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think your bewilderment.
Oh, I'm very nervous about all the lying that I'm doing today.
Jurisprudence that when you have an agency like the FEC that has expertise in federal
Assholes
election
have
campaign contributions or expenditures, and then you have
I just can't let these feelings go.
that our doctrines
These
say that
feelings so real. Zoom in on the box. I'm going to. I don't know if I can actually. I don't know how to do that.
look at the facts and determine
That scares me.
going to act, then you can potentially proceed.
Lying. Oh dear. Okay, thanks for warning me.
The primary jurisdiction doctrine
Cat.
has been used
Thanks for warning me,
in state law
Cat.
prosecution
You're
for it to stay
a
those
pal.
cases. And that was not something that
Good
this
job.
court was
Good
willing
job,
to do.
Gus.
So if a federally
Sorry.
motivated, a politically motivated prosecutor in front of
A politically motivated prosecutor.
knew a jurisdiction where President Trump could not get a fair trial.
Oh my God. 'Tis the treason to be jolly. Fa la 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 la. Trump's a dick. It's really not hard to know. Da 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 da. Lindsey Graham is licking his balls. La 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 la.
It's just
McConnell's busy taking falls. La 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 la. I'm number 14. What the fuck does that mean? Uh-oh. I don't know what that means. Oh, you're number 14. Oh, 14 likes? Do we have likes? Oh, fuck yeah.
5 minutes.
Whoop, whoop. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Peace Love.
So, Mr. Epstein, I have a yes or no question for you. Do you believe in due process?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Terwilliger, Another yes or no question for you. Do you believe in the jury system? Yes or no?
I'm not sure what you mean by believe in it. Do I think that it's a good system in our criminal justice system? Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Professor Besky, do you believe that the right to a jury trial is the very foundation of due process? Yes or no?
It is one of the mainstays of our system, both civil and criminal.
Absolutely. And in fact, our founding fathers would agree with you because the right to a jury trial is mentioned 3 times in the Constitution. So it's kind of important. Not free speech, not even the right to guns, but the right to a jury trial, to be judged by your peers. And jury trials are, in fact, how we decide conflicts in this country. And in fact, the president is no stranger to this system.
Thank you for liking the broadcast. Really, no, thank you very much. It does help.
Because
Thank you.
I want it to be fair. So, Professor Besky, are you familiar with the Russian term arbitrage? Yes or no?
Arbitrage?
Yes. It's okay. You can say no.
I know the English term.
Yes.
I'm not sure the Russian term.
So the Russian term means the opposite of fair. You don't get a trial. You have a case that's decided by a so-called professional judge. There's no due process. There's no jury of peers. And the judges are there to appease the powers who put them there. And so in Russia, that means the billionaires. So legislative reforms to end lawfare by state and local prosecutors is really, let's just say it, it's overburdening the federal government and taking away state sovereignty at a time when Republicans are talking about cutting costs. But this idea significantly adds more waste, money, resources, and confusion to an already weighed down system.
Did some
Because now you
Etsy
wanna push
t-shirt
lawsuits to the
refurbishing.
federal courts, when the vast majority of lawsuits involve state interests, state crimes, not federal concerns. So for example, sexual assault, bribery, landlords threatening tenants, where there is little or no federal statutory equivalent. These cases would be outside of federal jurisprudence.
Yeah.
So they want to overwhelm a federal system by litigating a state matter in federal court.
My
and then
dick
force
tutor.
federal judges to interpret states' laws. Well,
I was trying to
federal
think of
courts
how
are
you
not
change
set
that
up
word to make
try
it really
state law
insulting.
cases. What
I mean, not that it's
state
not
of
already,
jury
but you know.
instruction would they give out, state or federal? And Article 3 judges, important because they have lifetime appointments, supposedly to free them from political affiliations, misgivings, and bias. They have a very specific type of jurisdictional bandwidth, and state cases are not within it. So this is how I see the idea going. The president, any president's cousin, gets
I'm
into
checks.
a bar
I'm
fight,
balances.
sucker punches a man and knocks out his tooth. So if the bar fight results in a civil suit for money damages, the president could pluck the case and remove it to federal court. So now we want to cherry pick the litigants ad nauseum, maybe only judges with red hats? Because the only reason to do any of this is to be able to put one's finger on the scale of justice and decide the outcome, and that's not justice.
Ding, ding,
What that
ding.
really is a merger of the executive and
I love
judicial
this woman.
branches, and that is not constitutional here in the United States. The judicial branch is supposed to be independent, and without an independent judiciary, there is no longer a system of checks and balances. And how does this even make sense at a time when you're talking about shrinking the federal government? This ineptitude would overwhelm the capacity of the federal judicial system. I don't know how many people know what goes into the managing of a federal courtroom, but a lot of people who are needed to manage a courtroom. And you're going to exacerbate this system by increasing its caseload. I challenge anyone in this room to find a single federal judge who wants more cases in their courtroom. Their dockets are already full. This seems to be a violation.
Plus,
of
aren't we getting
states'
rid of the
rights to handle
federal
their
government?
matters.
What
It is
happened?
a disastrous attempt to manipulate the judicial system, and it is a weaponization of waste, when in fact you will have more cases improperly or selectively prosecuted. So my fellow Congress members, I urge you to get over your feelings from the last 4 years and recommit to the United States Constitution. I urge everyone to turn to your neighbor and say,
Hell
I don't
yeah.
want my judiciary co-opted. I believe
We're
in
so
state
in tune.
sovereignty. I believe in a jury trial of my peers, and I don't want arbitrage
Yes,
in this
Teresa.
country because I do not speak Russian. And with that, I yield.
Я не говорю по-русски.
I recognize the gentleman from
Нет.
Wisconsin for 5 minutes.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Congressman Roy for having
Oh
this
God,
hearing.
this
We're dealing with
Grothman, he's so creepy to me. I think
serious
somebody needs to
matters,
check his hard
scary
drive. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that.
I
Like,
don't know whether people on the
I just
other
have a
side of the aisle
feeling.
know
I just have a real feeling.
right now.
I have a
if
real
show up
feeling
at
about this guy, Grothman.
Day dinner filled with Republicans,
Okay.
a room full of people.
I think he's really a dangerous individual, and I think someone should probably check his hard drive. That's just what I think.
They have zero confidence, for example.
I'm really mad. Watch this.
I don't like the
Watch
fact that
this.
we're there, but
Watch that.
I think that is what people think.
That's what I think.
I'm one of those people who thinks that.
I knew it. I knew it. That was the answer. Okay, what now?
And I think, by the way, it goes beyond
Let me do
the
this.
justice
Hold
system. I
on.
think the same way about
Everybody.
the IRS. They think
Yeah, I feel that way about everybody.
today the federal government is something that I would have guessed was from somebody out of the public growing up. First question, it can be for any one of you. Do any of you know any situation other than what just happened in this country in which a former chief of state was charged with crimes and at one point appeared to be facing prison
That's the best you've ever looked, Grothman.
anywhere in the
That's the best you've ever looked.
Venezuela.
Venezuela. Okay.
Oh, okay, Venezuela. Oh, Venezuela, sweet.
Your description, sir.
Oh, I don't know. I'm a hairy ball set too. Look at my nose. Where's my nose? Where's my nose? The balls have eyes.
Seems like
I just don't see a reason to remove it yet. I don't know. I don't see a reason to remove it. Freedom of speech.
Prosecuted and investigated.
Hairy eyes with googly eyes. Hairy balls with googly eyes. Let's give it a name. Harry. Harry. Hairy balls.
Kind of scary.
What are you doing? Yes, it's kind of scary, isn't it? Kind of like your hard drive.
General question, I guess we'll go over to Mr. Epstein.
I can't. Oh, good. Mr. Epstein needs this treatment too. Balls to the face.
Between state and federal governments.
Balls to the face. The hills have eyes. Nah, the balls do.
And separation of powers. And I should also
The
say,
eyes are on the balls.
how the American people view their government. I mean, we know to a certain extent.
Wait. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to give it a shot. Hold on. Let me just see what I can do here. Wait. Oh, shit. Line up. There we go.
Congressman, I think the American people, who the Constitution was written for them, well understand that federal questions are within the federal sphere and state questions are within the state sphere. And I think the test is if a legal question can be
This is what we're going to do the next 4 years or 40 years. I don't know what, but I think I'm going to be 100 and sitting here going, ha ha, look at I put balls on his face.
Do you know anybody among the lawyers?
Do you know anybody that can put these balls on their face like I can? I don't think so. I don't think so, mister. Oh my God, my stomach hurts.
A trumped up
Stay there, you stupid shit. Fuck. Oh my God, I'm dying. Where do you get news like this? Where, I tell you? Where? Where do you get news like this? Give me a break. Give me a break. Jesus.
But I think your point is the essential one, regardless of what lawyers think.
Wait, I got more. Hold on. Let me see who else I've got. Let me see who else I have here. Hold on. Oh, shit. The gentle lady. Yeah. Fuck her.
If you cannot admit, based on
Oh, bitch. You better watch it. Oh, God, he's huge. Oh, damn it. I don't have the background removed on Robert Kennedy. Oh, well. That's fine. Oh, here we go. No, I don't want to do that. Hold on.
Just say, I've got power here today. I'm going to harm a politician I don't like. Is that what you were going to say?
Oh, really? Do you think that's actually how it works? Maybe that's how it works in your stupid head.
Great.
Where's what happened here?
A lot of what a jury does depends upon instructions.
I don't even know what that is.
And if you have judges who view their role as political or who believe
Wait, what
that
happened? Wait.
The ends justify the means in terms of what prosecutors are pursuing, they're going to give instructions that are limited, that are problematic, and the federal courts.
You're problematic.
Have had numerous examples of where there becomes judicial review of.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to
instructions
fix
that
this.
raise, substantial issues for defendants' rights. And if you think about the president and the state court system, that remedy wasn't necessarily available to him.
Thank you much. Yeah, we're about where Venezuela would be. Thank you.
There we go. Now watch this.
Recognize the gentleman from New York for 5 minutes.
Oh, man.
And I will just
Can't
say,
make his head small enough.
representative of
Can't
New
make his
York
body
City
small enough.
And a former prosecutor in New
Okay,
York,
I'm going to get rid of all this. Okay, no more balls.
resent and
Whoops.
object to
Oh,
the
don't lock the balls.
insinuation from my colleagues on the other side of the
There's
aisle
the eyes. Oh, wait.
that a jury of 12 New Yorkers cannot issue a fair and impartial
Wait,
verdict.
I'm going to move him.
And I'm sure that if I
Wrong
said
one.
a jury in Wisconsin could not issue a fair and impartial verdict because a defendant was a Democrat, you would object too. And you should, because it's baseless. All of these accusations about lawfare that we hear over and over and over again have no evidence to support it. You say the judge in that trial was politically motivated. Why? You say the judge was motivated? Is it because his daughter works for a digital fundraising firm, that all of a sudden that's politically motivated? That the jury, you can't get a fair trial now in New York? Give me a break. Mr. Terwilliger, did you read the search warrant for Mar-a-Lago?
I might have read parts of it. I don't know that I read the whole thing.
And you spent 15 years in the Justice Department as a prosecutor. I spent 10. I left 7 years ago. I hear you say
The genital lady.
It's been completely politicized. I have no idea what you're talking about. When I was there, I didn't, just like you, I had no idea the political leanings.
If you're offended, it's a hairy butt. Get over yourselves, prudes.
So I appreciate your accusations. I'd maybe after my.
Oh, I have to make the
since I don't
balls
have time,
smaller.
I'd love to hear why you think that all of
I'm
a sudden,
sorry. I got the
15
ball
years ago,
size
the
wrong.
Department
Hold
of
on.
Justice changed.
Hold on, I'll fix it.
But if you read that search warrant,
I'll fix
and
it.
you were
Hold
a
on.
deputy
I
attorney
gotta find the
general,
balls.
and
Find the
you
balls.
were asked to review that, would you say that that did not have probable cause?
Where's the balls?
I
Where
would
are the
assume,
balls?
without
Oh,
my
there they
having
are.
read it, that a magistrate signed it and
There we
determined
go.
that
Let's
there
make
was
these
probable
smaller.
cause. But I don't think
Well, that's
either
obvious. I'm
here
asking
or-
you.
That's not either here or there.
Yeah, it is
No, I think
actually
this is
here
why it
and
is,
there.
Mr. Terwilliger, because this is the accusations and allegations from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, that the search of Mar-a-Lago for classified documents
There we
after
go.
Donald
That's a better
Trump
proportion.
repeatedly and persistently obstructed justice, obstructed
I should
an
probably make 'em smaller.
investigation, held on to classified documents, lied about it, told his lawyer to lie about it, that all of a sudden that search warrant is unprecedented and must be
I'm not saying I
lawfare,
know.
politically motivated. Wrong. That was, I don't have a question for you right now, Mr. Terwilliger, but I will, because I
There we
wanna
go.
know-
And
I
even
wanna
that's too
focus on
big,
the
but you
here
get
and
it.
now. I want to focus on the last 6 weeks. You were a deputy attorney general, correct, Mr. Terwilliger?
Yes.
And it was under the George H.W. Bush administration. You spent 15 years. You may be Republican now, or were then. I'm sure it had no impact on the job you did. You're here as a Republican called witness. Let me ask you something. As Deputy Attorney General, did you ever appear yourself in court because no one underneath you would actually appear in court to represent the Department
Emil
of Justice?
Bo.
Having to do that, but I would have if I had to.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Anything to kiss up?
You never
Okay.
did that. Have you ever heard of any Deputy Attorney General doing that before the last 3 weeks?
I actually do have some recollection of that, but it's not sufficiently clear for me to be
Well,
able to.
How the fuck does that line up?
You're right.
What the fuck?
That the acting
Oh
Deputy
shit.
Attorney
When it
General,
goes
Neil
back, it
Lawfare,
lines
had to
up.
appear in the Southern District of New York
Oh my God.
himself as the Deputy Attorney General because 7 prosecutors
That's a good idea.
underneath him resigned rather than defend a plea agreement that he put in writing was not based on the facts, evidence, or the law. Mr. Terwilliger, I'm sure you'll agree with me that the only job that the Department of Justice has is to follow the facts, evidence, and the law. Is that right?
I would agree with that, but I'd also tell.
Okay,
I
so
would also
I gotta
say,
cut off,
sir,
Mr.
that
Terwilliger, I didn't ask you
assistant
another
U.S.
question.
attorneys have a duty
The other
to follow
problem
their
we
orders.
have here
What?
is the U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C.
Well, what's their order? To follow the law.
To get into him, but to actually say that I am the president's lawyer, I hope you recognize, Mr. Terwilliger, as someone who cares about the Department of Justice, that undermines the entire law enforcement system more than anything that anyone else prior to January of this year has ever done. And I yield back.
Thank you, gentleman from New York. I'd recognize the ranking member.
Yes, I have a couple unanimous consent requests. First, I would ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an excerpt from the committee's transcripted interview with Stephen D'Antonio, former Assistant Director of FBI Washington Field Office on June 7, 2023, in which he explained that the FBI executed a search warrant for classified material at Mar-a-Lago because there was probable cause to believe that Donald Trump did not fully comply with a subpoena to
I'm sorry.
classified
It's not it's not what they think it is. It doesn't matter how often they say it.
Another excerpt from the transcribed interview with Stephen D'Antonio, in which Mr. D'Antonio explained that he would describe the search on Mar-a-Lago not as a raid, but as a lawful search pursuant to warrant.
It was. Sorry,
No,
not
Mr.
sorry.
Chairman, I have a unanimous consent request.
Briefly.
Sorry, I'd like to introduce a New York Times article dated yesterday entitled U.S. Attorney Rebuffed by Justice Department in Push to Escalate
Give it to
Inquiry
him, Carla.
into Schumer related to Ed Martin, the acting U.S. Attorney in Washington.
He was a criminal.
Without objection.
And then one more.
Like
I
a
have
J6er or something,
letter
right?
Dated February 12th, 2025, signed by me and 6 other former DOJ lawyers to the Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, asking him to investigate acting Deputy Attorney General Beauvais and acting U.S. Attorney.
Without objection.
Whoopee.
I will now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gill, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lawfare is
this guy.
antithetical to the American
He's
experiment.
married to
It's
who the fuck's he
explicitly
married to?
contrary to the
He's
rule of
married to
law,
somebody.
but Yet it seems to have been the Democrats' last.
He's married to
effort
someone.
to win the
Who was he married
2024
to?
election cycle. In the lead up to the 2024
This guy's like a real
election,
Nazi.
Democrats knew that they couldn't fairly win. They were running a candidate whose cognitive
I think this guy's an
state
actual
was in
Nazi.
question,
Bartender, what will you
declining
have?
before our
Yeah.
very eyes
He does look like a bartender.
trying to tell us that he was sharper
Jane, that's
than
a good
ever.
one.
Their political strategy reminds
He's
me
married
of
to
the line in
what
Orwell's
the fuck?
1984, which was the party told you to reject the evidence of
Someone
your eyes and
surprising.
ears. It was their final, most essential
Or not
command. And that was
surprising, but, you know,
consistent with
that
the
they
left's
married, I
messaging.
guess.
They were trying to tell the American people, for instance, that
I'll have a tea
defunding
bag.
the police makes
Stop making
our
fun of my
communities
chin.
safer, that men can get pregnant and should be
Poor
sharing
Donald
locker
was
rooms
afflicted
our
with ball
daughters,
chin.
and that flooding our country with millions of cheap serf laborers would be somehow economically beneficial to our working class. But in order to get over this messaging issue, they attempted to
Yes,
again,
it's
flood the
D'Souza's
country
daughter,
with
Danielle
people that
D'Souza.
they
It's
thought would
Dinesh
eventually
D'Souza's daughter,
become
who's
Democrat
she's a
voters,
fucking
knowing
lunatic, by the
even
way.
now that our
She's a
election
fucking
system
lunatic.
had legitimate
I'm
vulnerabilities to it.
telling you the truth.
They
Danielle
directed social
D'Souza,
media companies to
don't let the
censor-
fact that she was somebody's child fool you. She's a
American
monster.
citizens and
She is a
illegally put President Trump
monster.
behind bars
Monster.
for made-up federal charges
Monster.
in an attempt to prevent him from getting back
Monster.
into the White House. What we witnessed was a grotesque exercise
In fact,
of
I'm going
raw
to make her
political power by the Democrats against their enemies. And that's why I'm
bitch right
excited about our markup tomorrow. We've got a series of bills that I think are a good first step in helping ensure this lawfare doesn't happen again. But I
Remember when I
one instance in particular, which was
protested Dinesh D'Souza's movies
corrupt state
as a dinosaur?
officials to peruse state-level
Let's see, Gil.
lawfare and punish President Trump and the millions of Americans who supported his campaign. Their one last hope leading up to the election was to concoct a novel legal theory by Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg in the state of New York didn't have jurisdiction.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Would violate settled Supreme Court.
Are you sure?
But again, this
is them.
Last best hope.
They're like the king and queen of Amazon hair.
Overseeing the case finally
got
there, which they landed a
Hi, can I borrow those?
Of the president.
Yeah, sure, you can borrow these. Just a second. We'll just play paper dolls. Wait, where's the balls?
Which the other side of the aisle will go to attack their political opposition.
Watch me. Oops,
Mr.
I gotta
Epstein,
move first. Hold on.
So much for being here. We really appreciate it and appreciate your work to restore law and order in this country. I want to ask you a couple questions. The charges in the case against President Trump in New York.
Hey, I moved the balls.
Around the Federal Election Campaign Act.
Don't fuck with me. Oh.
Yes, Congressman.
Yes, Congressman.
That act grants exclusive jurisdiction over federal
being such an
election
asshole.
issues to the FEC.
All right, here we go.
DOJ.
Here you go.
That's correct.
Thank you. I really needed these balls. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. Here, honey, have some. Yum, 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 yum.
Trump, during his first administration,
and it's a necklace. It's so cute.
Payments in his financial disclosures, which is clear evidence.
Brandon's an operative, if there ever was one. Actually, you know what? This goes right there.
And Alvin Bragg
Oh my God, your head's too big.
He was pursuing a frivolous case here, yet he decided to very aggressively
that sounds like a feeling.
Support from the Biden DOJ. What motive do you think?
Wait, here we go. Where's that?
Bragg
Let's see. What motive would you describe if you had an opinion that mattered about anything?
No, I can't speculate.
I have no feelings about that. Oh wait, let me go ahead and share some feelings.
Is spoken by how the American people
recently
determined who should be the president of the United States.
But did they?
And I think
but did they?
General view.
But did they?
Of the American public that.
But did they?
Prosecute political enemies raises serious concerns.
But sir, did they?
The law, but what culture do we want?
Culture. What the hell does culture have to do with anything?
Epstein and with that.
The fuck are you talking about, white supremacist?
Mr. Chairman, you see request.
Hey.
Reuters, January 20th.
Make some phone calls. Thanks. Love you, Teresa. I love you so much. My other suit is Klan robe. I just rewatched Mississippi Burning. Oh my God, what a wonderful movie that is.
It backfired, didn't it?
Balls. It's what's for dinner.
Yes, sir.
Good one, Carla.
And then it's
Oh God. Operatives and fascists are so bizarre, right? What's the appeal? Are they bored? They just low IQ? Low IQ people? Low morals?
Get a little more complicated around here than they should be. I mean, we're dealing now with a fairly complex statute, basic core constitutional principles, civil and criminal.
He introduced the Golden Age Act to put Dumpty on the $100 bill. Oh my God. They really are. They're working hard to get all this shit passed, aren't they? They know they have a little tiny time. Or they're certainly acting like it.
Not to commit prosecutable crimes, and that's been something that's served our country really well, with one notable exception. But since we are here on this bill,
Oh, I don't know if he was an Explore Talent person. That's Roger Stone, remember, so got to think about who the Roger Stone connects are.
To encompass purely private lawsuits.
We still don't know how the Iranians hacked Roger Stone's email. I guess we'll never know. That was probably on one of those boxes tomorrow at Flarto.
It seems like this bill threatens to undercut that federalism. And the
I'm sure I could handle a Pinocchio penis face. It might take me a minute to, create, but I could do that.
I'm looking at provision.
I think it's
totally. No, I got you. I got you.
That would add section 5.
We'll do
Yes,
it justice.
Section 5, which permits removal of any action against the president or vice president where the state court's consideration will hinder, burden, or delay the execution of the duties of the president or vice president. So this applies on its face only to sitting presidents and vice presidents. Now, of course, we have a norm that we don't charge sitting presidents and vice presidents with criminal conduct. There's a Supreme Court opinion that says they are immune from suits for civil conduct that is official. And so not criminal, not civil conduct that's official. The only thing that's left is civil conduct that is personal, private. And so essentially, the way I'm reading this, the only thing left on the table is this proposed bill adds permitting a provision permitting removal of actions against the president or vice president where the state court's consideration may interfere, hinder, burden, or delay private suits. And okay, I mean, the Supreme Court has specifically said private suits, like Clinton v. Jones said, you can totally sue the president during Clinton's term. He asked for temporary immunity, and the Supreme Court said, no, you can sue President Clinton during his term, no temporary immunity granted. And this appears to expand and say, sorry, we're going to allow removal when a court determines that it might interfere.
Okay. And so that would be with respect to a president, a sitting president or vice president. So basically,
private suits.
Simply the act of being president will give him a pass on everything.
Trump University suits, Clinton v. Jones suits. And that's a big, huge expansion.
Sure. There's another provision in here that I found really troubling. It says, it's Section D, no court may define or limit the scope of duties of an official of the executive office of the president. So that would mean that no court could decide, that only the president could decide what were the president's official duties. How does that square with our Constitution?
Well, I think what it does is basically read the color of office requirement out of the statute, because how can you decide whether someone's acting within the color of their office if you can't ask, well, what is their office? What does it entail? What's within and without the scope of their duties? It seems to be saying you can't look at what their duties entail. And if you can't look at what their duties entail, you sort of can't answer that question. Well, and so if you can't answer it, then it's not really an element.
Well, then, doesn't that really strike at the core idea of checks and balances, the different branches of government acting as checks and balances if the courts are forbidden from determining whether or not something is within the duties of the president?
Well, it certainly removes that question from the court's purview altogether. What it also does is it greatly expands the number of cases that you are wresting from state courts and, in theory, allowing into federal courts. And so for me, it raises some serious federalism issues.
Okay.
And that's problematic.
Feels like it's an ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card, but
sure does.
looks like my time's expired, so I'll yield back.
I'm going to drink more coffee.
Thank you, gentlelady from Pennsylvania.
Hello.
I'll now recognize the chairman of the committee, Mr. Jordan, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It backfired, Mr. Epstein.
Yes, sir.
I mean, the gentleman from New York, our colleague on the other side, talked
What?
about you trust 12 jurors in New York, but the real jury was the 330 million Americans.
What?
I mean,
They
we, the
didn't.
people, are the
Excuse
ultimate
me.
jury in our great
All
country.
Americans
And
did
you
not
think about what
vote
they
for
did.
him.
I love the list.
Oh my God. Jim, you're really working hard on this. You need some balls.
False dossier that they took to a secret court to get a warrant to spy on a presidential campaign. That wasn't enough. The Mueller investigation, they could do all the Trump-Russia Mueller investigation finds no collusion, no coordination, none whatsoever. Then they raid his home, part of the Jack Smith investigation, Alvin Bragg, Fonnie Willis, the other Jack Smith investigation, the 14th Amendment, and the American people saw through it all. Saw through it all because it was lawfare. I mean, the Democrats' argument seems to me today to be, oh, criticizing lawfare is worse than the lawfare itself. It's just not what it is. So tell me this, part of this lawfare and some of the details, who's Matthew Colangelo?
Matthew Colangelo was an acting Associate Attorney General in the Garland Department of Justice, who then moved to the Manhattan DA's office to work on the Bragg prosecution.
What did he do before he was at the Department of
This is never going to get old. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care how old I
It
am.
was the New York Attorney General's office, wasn't it?
Makes sense.
Tish James's office. So here's a guy who worked for Tish James, then worked for the Biden-Garland Justice Department.
I like
and then
that the
Alvin
eyes are
Bragg
on
says,
one
"We want him
ball.
to work for us." According to media, he came to work for Alvin Bragg for what reason? I think you put it in your testimony.
Yeah, he obviously was motivated by the case against President Trump.
Yeah, to jumpstart their investigation,
Yeah.
I think is the term that was used
Yeah.
in the press.
Wait, hold on.
And we
I'll tell
asked
you
for
all
any
about it.
communications
It made me really sad.
Alvin Bragg and the Biden
Yeah,
Justice Department.
Alvin
and they said,
Bragg
"We've
and
looked
the
and we couldn't
Biden
find
Justice
anything." You disagree with that?
Department.
You
Yeah,
disagree
they
with what
didn't
Mr.
win
Garland told
anything,
this committee,
but
the
they
House
tried,
Judiciary Committee. You
and that's
disagree with that?
enough.
Tell me why you disagree
But
with
they
that.
didn't win anything.
It's not just a question of disagreement, it's a question
Okay.
of facts.
Right? Oh, no. Is it though? Is it though? Is it though, Mr. Epstein? It's not, because we've seen the facts. And they're pretty fucking damning.
This committee, we can't find anything. That wasn't accurate, was it?
I'll
What?
let this committee make that inference. It
But
would
of
seem
course-
so.
Wasn't
Hey,
accurate
shut the
based
fuck
on
up.
what Alvin Bragg told the court, right?
Correct.
Go figure. So we'd like that information.
Yeah, come on. Come on, Carlos, step up. Cuck nuts.
Attorney General Bond,
Cuck
you can
nuts,
get access to
cuck
some of those
nuts.
36
Hot
responsive
and
records that
steamy
you talked about.
from
Now,
this pot.
Mr. Twilliger, this
I
legislation we're
am
talking
the
about,
puck
where you
nuts, the cuck nuts, the cuck nuts. I'm Jim Jordan and I'm a set of nuts. I'm Jim Jordan and my head turned into a set of nuts overnight. I hope nobody notices because I don't want to be noticed. Because I don't. I have a set of nuts for a face. And if you think about it, I talk through the center of the two nuts. That's right. They would make some good truck nuts. I don't know, truck nuts. They're what's for breakfast. Oopsie. Wait a minute. I need to get my cursor on my nuts.
maybe a little
I need to move my nutsack.
Okay, to the chief of staff of President Biden, Mr. Zients, if they're coming after you, you can move it to federal
The
court.
ball's
You
in
don't have
my
to go into some state
court.
court in
There we
the
go.
United
That's
States.
actually better. That's funnier. That's funnier. That's actually funnier.
Because we want equal treatment under the law.
I want it to be funnier. Yeah. I'm just resting my hand under my ball sack. That's all.
Particularly your
Yeah, and then when I was little, I would not put it back. Yeah, he probably watches. Yeah, you know he watches. Perniciously. That's a big word for a ball sack head.
I want you to set up a phone call. I need to talk to so-and-so.
Ball sack head. Ball sack head. You are just a big ball sack head. Wait, we gotta match up the.
And just the overall attack.
We gotta match up the ties.
For goodness sake. This goes
Ball sack head. Ball sack
and the
head.
people most close to the president of the White House counsel and his chief of staff, and they've always had that privilege here until now.
King of the
In their effort to get
ball
things out, they said we're gonna violate something that's been
sack head.
around since
I
Washington.
am a ball sack
And what we're saying is,
head.
let's at
King
least
of
fix
the
it so you
ball
go to
sack
federal court, fix part of it, so you get to go to a jury that's different
Dun,
than
dun,
some local prosecution, some jury at a local level.
Yes,
It's like paper dolls. That's what I think of it as, you know. Look at it! This lines up perfectly!
I think,
What
Dr.
the
Chairman
fuck?
and our witnesses
God, I'm brilliant.
I'm sorry, Professor Foley, I didn't get to you. I usually like to try to get a question.
No, you don't. You're scared of her, you stupid little bitch.
I think the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Jordan, I would now recognize myself for 5 minutes for questions. One thing that was raised earlier is about how
Well, you deserve some googly eyes. I think we've seen enough balls for today, don't you think?
referencing that.
It's a grown-up show.
This about 15 years ago, right on the number, when I was a special assistant United States attorney. One thing that
You
I've
were
known,
never an
Jack
assistant
Smith has
something
been
to something
the center of
something.
A lot of these issues and debates in terms
Is it,
of lawfare.
is it time for,
obviously,
oh,
in the
we
federal
did Puppet
context.
Show already, didn't we?
When he
Okay,
entered his
never
role
mind.
as special counsel, Smith had already had a pattern of targeting Republican politicians.
Oh, we're going after Jack Smith. Okay, I got it.
For example,
I got it.
2013,
I'm caught
he
up,
served as the head of DOJ's public integrity section.
which is
Jack Smith
demolished.
encouraged his subordinates to contact IRS official Lois Lerner
Oh
to
my
discuss
God,
the
are we
federal
doing this again?
government
I'm not
against
doing it.
conservative-
No. Okay. Hey, stupid ass Chip Roy, Chips Ahoy Roy. Let me tell you something. I have eyes on my chin. I have eyes on my chin. The eyes are kind of distracting. So we're going to get rid of those. Hold on. All right, enough clowning around. You know what? I'm not going to watch any more of this. I'm going to find the actual fucking thing though and get the pull the original bill. There's just so many bills that are going on right now that are so problematic. So problematic. It's an assault, which I guess is the intention. It's kind of face balls. Carla, that's so good. Carla, you're so funny. You are so funny. Yeah. What a mess. Is that all there is? Is that all there is? If that's all there is, my friend, then let's keep dancing. And dance we will. We will have a dance party next week. I don't know when, but we will. Oh, John Candy, yeah. Okay, so I got to get off here, and I'm going to figure out what we're going to do for tonight in lieu of our boycott of the stupid ass. We don't like stupid asses. So I'll figure out what our boycott activity is, and I do commit to putting it on as much as I can YouTube, but it might have to be a Discord thing, but we'll figure it out. Don't worry. Just watch the skies. Watch the skies for the ball signal. I'll send out the ball signal when I'm ready. No, it's going to be at 6 o'clock, 5:55 Pacific, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, and 8 Eastern. Everything else outside of that, however your time zone adjusts. Please come and just share some time with us and look to the skies to find out where the fuck I'm going to be and what the fuck we're going to be doing. Okay. I love you guys. Have a good day. If I don't see you, I understand, because really, there's only so much. Thrice Baked with Lolo is coming. Okay, Thrice Baked is coming, but I understand if you're like, yeah, great. But I love you. But stop by and hit the like even if you don't happen to watch, and it's great for the algo. All right, thanks again for everyone. Thanks for all the links and all the information that people have shared throughout both of our streams this morning and afternoon. And I will see you tonight. All right? I'm not kidding. My ass is going to be back in this fucking chair. All right? Thank you. Thank you for putting up with my juvenile paper dolls. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your grace deeply.